Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Dating Game with Troy Francis, with myself, Troy Francis from London. I am a dating coach, if you don't know who I am. Working in the industry for over a decade, teaching guys all over the planet about how to get better results with women. And also, part of the stuff that we do on this channel as well is talking to women about their issues and trying to help them out with the dating stuff as well, because let's face it, it's pretty turbulent out there these days and we could all do with a bit of help. Anyway, with that being said, this episode, we're going to go in and talk about Fresh and Fit. So yeah, basically, right, what happened was the other night, this was, God, losing track of days. This was Monday night. Fresh and Fit, Myron and Fresh, who were in London, or they were in Europe, because they were over in been in Romania. They've been interviewing the tape bros over there, had come over to London to catch up with a few people and do some content. And they did a special surprise show of Fresh and Fit, which obviously, as you probably know, if you don't, it's normally based in Miami. It's a podcast out of Miami, the #1 men's dating podcast in the world. They came over and they did a surprise episode live from London. By the way, if you've got any questions, if you've got any comments, please put them into the chat and we'll get to them as we go through. So yeah, it was kind of like a surprise thing that wasn't announced beforehand. And the reason it was, I think, for people a bit of a surprise was because there had been sort of beef previously between the Fresh and Fit guys and Pearl. And obviously this podcast was done from Pearl's studio here in London. Pearl was on the podcast. So it's the first time really that they'd appeared on camera together, I think for I think it was like 3 years. And there'd been this kind of beef that had happened before. They hadn't really been speaking. And behind the scenes, they've been sort of talking and sort of trying to figuring things out. And obviously it reconciled. And so brought the forces together to create this podcast, which, as I say, was broadcast live from London. Now, I was very generously, I was invited to come along. So it was myself, it was Pearl, obviously Fresh and Myron, and then a panel of girls as well. And I got to say, guys, it was pretty intense. The whole thing, for a start, the whole thing went on for a very, very long time. It was like 5 hours worth of basically sitting around and talking and arguing, etc., etc. Pretty intense. And also, we started really late because what had to happen was the guys here who Pearl works with, including Blessing, her main producer, and the other guys here, they actually rebuilt the entire set to make this happen. So there've been a lot of technical stuff going on, which has taken a long time. And then there was some, just some fine tuning issues before we went live. So we didn't even go live in the UK until after midnight. And then when we did go live, it carried on, as these things often do. It carried on till about 5:30 a.m. in the morning, UK time, which I guess would be 12:30 Miami time, 12:30 at night. So it was a cool show. There was some controversy. One girl got Frank Castled, which is what they call it when a girl gets thrown out off the show. So that happened. Another couple of girls actually ended up leaving the show as well. So there was this kind of mass walkout fairly late on in the broadcast. It was like kind of towards the end. So tempers were high. There was a lot of stuff that was a bit contentious. But overall, obviously, as always, great to see those guys. It was, I think, an interesting conversation. Some interesting things came out of it, and there's a couple of bits specifically that I want to react to here. But yeah, man, the whole experience of it was pretty crazy. And then I basically got like 3 hours sleep, and then I met up with Fresh again because he was going to go and do a project with somebody across London. So went over there and sort of hung out, kind of as a spectator, sort of observing that. And that was pretty cool as well. So it's been a pretty nuts couple of days. And I think they've gone back to the States today now. So, yeah, a flying visit from them into London. But obviously a very welcome one. The last time they were here, we also did a show. They were staying, it was about a year or so ago. And they were staying somewhere in kind of West London, kind of upscale area in West London. And we did, I think, a couple of shows actually from their hotel. This time, obviously, the setup was a lot better because it was in Pearl's studio, which is great. So, yeah, it was, the production values were high and it was all very good. Anyway, a couple of comments here. Yo, good to see you, man. And I will email you back later, but thanks for sorting out you know what. He said it was a great podcast. And then Sergio says, all right, Troy, why do you work with Pearl? Do you think she's legit or a grifter? Well, no, I think she's a great content creator. I think she supports men, okay? I think she understands the issues specifically that, men go through in the modern dating scene. And she tries to be a voice for men in this space. Now, okay, she's a woman. She hasn't experienced it firsthand, but she does talk to a lot of men. She's spoken to many guys who have been through really, really bad situations as far as things like divorce are concerned and so on and so forth. And I think she gets it. She's just a force for good, I think, in this whole thing. So yeah, man, it's all good. Let's just have a little look at the beginning of this podcast. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because, like I say, it's 5 hours long. I mean, we'll be here all day. And there's a bit that
podcast all the way from.
There's a bit that I specifically want to go through because one of the most interesting bits happened somewhat later in the podcast. Okay, which is going to lead into what we're going to be doing in the show tomorrow here. But let's have a look at the beginning of this anyway, so you can get a sense of the vibe. So here we go. And
from London, aka the great UK, the United Kingdom, we're here with a bunch of lovely ladies and Pearl and Troy. Let's get into it, guys.
Let's go. And the intro.
Oh yeah.
Look at you. Nobody cares, bro. Get out. Get out.
The other thing, actually, though, just on the somebody talked about Pearl before. The other thing I should say as well is Pearl's always been personally very, very supportive to me, and for that I'm very grateful. She's been a great, she's really, helped me to sort of grow in terms of bringing me onto her show. Helping to create this channel and so on and so forth. So, for that I'm very grateful on a personal level, but also I think overall, she is somebody who she looks at the community, the men's online self-development community, whatever you want to call it, the red pill space, and she is happy to really try and help and to give people a voice, which I think is a very cool thing as well.
Go. Put your shoes on outside. You don't got to put them on in here.
And we are live. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Fresh Fit Podcast, man. We are here in London, man. It's a great time to be here, man. It's cold as hell, and I want to get back to Miami, but that's fine.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever really got on board with London, to be honest. It's always a little bit kind of, I don't know. I remember they were here last time, and they just, because the other thing as well, with London, you hear all this stuff on the news about, the violent crime that happens here, the stabbings, all that kind of stuff. So people are always like, oh my God, it's this horrendous, there's all this stuff going on here. And also, let's face it, it's February, it's bloody cold. You go to Miami, it's like super hot. You could be out on the beach. You could be, riding with the top down down the boulevard in fucking Brickell, having an amazing time. Lots of hot girls walking around, not wearing much. And then you come to London and everyone's miserable and they're wrapped up and it's cold and blah, blah, blah. So you can't really blame them for that. But, it is what it is. But anyway, they came over. So,
guys, rumble.com/freshfit, as you guys know, that is the home base for us. Also, check us out on fnfsuperchat.com or Rumble Rant In if you guys got questions or you want to engage with the panel. I know it's been a bit since we've been off air for a while. We just came from Romania. We were with the Tate brothers. That was lit.
What I was going to do as well, what I might do is react to his video with Andrew and possibly Tristan as well. I mean, he interviewed both of them separately. I haven't watched the Tristan one yet. I've watched most of the Andrew one, and the Andrew one I thought was interesting actually. I listened to it. I was kind of doing some work and I had it on in the background. I was listening to it, and I think that the one of the key takeaways I think from the Andrew one was the experiences clearly that he has had having been incarcerated were really informing what he was talking about, right? And that has added a new dimension, I think, to what Tate is able to bring to the party as a content creator, because he obviously, he hadn't had that experience before. Now he has. And so he was talking a lot more about things like, I guess, dopamine, really, the way that, in the modern world, we're on our phone all the time. We can distract ourselves with mindless activities the whole time if we want to. Whereas when you're in jail, obviously you don't have that luxury. You have to just kind of face your fears and just get on with it, right? And be stoic. And I think that was really quite interesting. So some of those parts were really good. So Sergio says, I would be okay if she were talking to women. He's talking about Pearl. I'd be okay if she were talking to women, but not men. Don't ask the fish. Yeah. So what he means by that, there's this concept that if you want to catch fish, you ask the fisherman, right? You don't ask the fish themselves, because is a fish really going to give you the correct information, right? And the analogy obviously is, if you want to know how to date women, do you ask a woman or do you ask somebody who's a guy, the fisherman in that analogy, who has experience in doing that? I mean, the thing with Pearl is she's not a dating coach. That's the first thing. I mean, she's not a dating coach. I mean, she talks about dating. She talks about social issues. She's not, I mean, maybe the odd tweet here or there or whatever, but, in the main, she's not somebody who's sitting there going, hey, I'm a dating expert, come to me. I'm going to teach you how to get high quality women or whatever. I mean, in part, that's why she gives me a platform, because that's more of a speciality that I bring to the table. And obviously I'm a guy as well. She's more somebody who's a commentator on a range of social issues, largely to do with intersexual dynamics and the modern dating scene and et cetera, but also other things as well, politics and the culture at large. So I think criticisms like that, they always feel a little bit misplaced. It's the same thing actually even with Rollo Tomassi, because you'll get people who say, well, Rollo Tomassi, when was the last time he did a cold approach? If he went to the club, would he be getting the bad bitches and all this kind of thing? And it's like, well, he's been married for 27 years, right? He's a writer. He is somebody who is very analytical. He's able to break down concepts. He's able to explain things and connect the dots, as he would say, in a very proficient manner. And that in itself is very valuable for a lot of people, okay? So people always have this weird sort of, kind of second guessing where a person should come from. If that makes sense, right? So, firstly, as I say, Pearl's not a dating coach, but secondly, can she have a view on these things? Well, absolutely, because she's interviewed thousands of men, she's interviewed thousands of women. So, she's probably got a better idea than certainly most people have about what's going on out there.
We got into London like maybe 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been here for about maybe a little over 24 hours.
And we're ready to go back home, bro.
Yeah, we're ready to go back, bro. We're ready to go back, man. But yeah, other than that, sorry guys for the delay. Obviously, we're in a new setup. Shout out to Pearl for hooking us up and being so gracious to allow us to use her studio. But yeah, we got a packed house in here.
So we'll speed forward a little bit. Looks like I'm saying something here. Let's see what it
is. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yo, all my days.
Nah, we'll see. We'll see you next time.
We could freestyle together.
Yeah.
It is low.
Plus multiple loads from. Okay.
All right. What about you? What's your name?
Hi. It's about 30 years. Yeah. I got an update for you.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to chat.
Are your parents still together?
Damn, you like to get personal.
Yes.
No, my parents are not together.
Divorced?
They were never married.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. All right. And then, Fresh, your favorite question?
Birth control?
Yes.
Okay. So you're on birth control. All right, cool.
Body count?
This nigga.
Low.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
I thought she was going to say loads then.
It is low.
Okay.
Plus multiple loads from. Okay.
All right. What about you? What's your name?
Hi, I'm Sakina.
So basically, one of the things I wanted to do today is actually talk about Sakina, because, and hopefully we're going to be getting Sakina on tomorrow to have a conversation between the two of us. She was going to come on today. It was too short notice, really. But what she says later on in the show about a situation that she's just gone through with her boyfriend, or she's now ex-partner, right? I thought was really interesting, and it really kind of revealed some what you might call like red pill truths about women and what women want and how women operate. Okay, so her input in particular, very interesting. Let's listen to a little bit now, and then we might speed on and listen to what she says towards the end.
Sakina.
Sakina, yeah.
Okay. How old are you?
I'm 29. I just turned 29.
Okay. Where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm Moroccan.
Okay. كلام عربي or
كلام عربي شوية.
شوية. Oh, عربي مكسر. Okay. What do you do for work?
Bless you.
I'm an entertainment showbiz journalist and presenter.
Okay, journalist
Yeah, and presenter.
and a presenter. When you say presenter, what do you
Like
mean?
host.
Okay, like on a news show or something? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Like an anchor.
Yeah, entertainment news, e-news style kind of thing.
Okay. Highest education level completed?
Bachelor's degree?
That's the 16 to 18 thing.
No, that's university.
Oh, university degree. Okay.
Yeah.
What'd you major in?
Journalism.
Okay. And that's 4 years or 5 years?
3 years.
Okay. So the standard, a bachelor's degree for you guys is 3 years.
It's
here.
3 years,
Okay.
usually.
Learn something new every day.
What's
Okay. Relationship status?
Single.
What's interesting about Myron, and I think is we can all take a leaf out of his book, is how careful he is about like just notating everything. If you watch him on this and then you watch him on his own, you know, when he does the show at his own studio, he's always taking notes on what everybody says. And it's very meticulous, but it's really, really useful because what you notice as you go through a show like this is that because he's noted everything down, he's then able to refer back to it later and say, well, actually, earlier on you said this. And under normal circumstances, people might forget. So it's quite impressive the way that he does that. Actually, I think it really brings added depth to the episodes because a lot of the time, you know, like the conversation's gone for so long that you almost forget what somebody said before. But it's really about, I suppose, what he's doing really is it's about accountability, isn't it? It's about saying, well, you said this. This is what you say your values are. This is where you say you're coming from. But actually, now you're saying something different. And I think that's really the value of these kinds of shows where people sort of reveal themselves throughout the course of a longer conversation.
I'm protecting my peace.
Okay.
Wait, that's
Preach.
new.
Yeah, I got an update for you.
Oh,
Yeah, well, we'll have to chat.
But-
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm single, newly single, yeah.
Question: who bought those Van Cleef bracelets for you?
No, I bought these.
All for yourself?
Yeah.
How much a piece?
How much a piece?
How much it cost?
I don't know. I just get it from my jeweler, my Lebanese jeweler.
Nigga, you don't know the cost of it?
Yeah, they're not like expensive. They're not like Van Cleef. They're like 18 karat gold designed in Van Cleef.
Okay,
So I don't go to the Van Cleef shop. I just get gold.
got it. Okay.
All right. He's a jewelry guy, as you could tell. Are your parents still together?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How long? 30 years, probably. Plus?
Yeah, it's about 30 years. Yeah.
Okay. And then, fresh food. Are you on birth control?
Come on, man. Come on. Tell us, man. Come on.
No.
No,
Okay.
not engaging in anything.
Okay. So.
Fresh's English accent is quite funny. It seemed to sort of improve over the time he was here. He was getting into like, oh, it's a mad painting and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, the birth control question is quite funny. I think there's a fairly newish one for them. Kind of interesting. Actually, interestingly enough, most of the women on here weren't. I think there was only one woman who said that she was on birth control. So for what it's worth.
Keeping it natural.
Waiting for marriage.
Chocolate bleu. Okay.
All right. What about you? What's your name?
My name's Rihanna.
Okay.
Okay, so look, let's move it forward a little bit. So Sakina is pretty cool. I've met her, I think, a couple of times. The first time, well, I've met her actually on Pearl Show. So I've met her on the pregame. I think a couple of times. She's pretty cool. She's like a showbiz journalist. You know, we speak offline and everything else. And as I say, hopefully we're getting her on tomorrow to do a show where we're going to talk just more generally about, you know, basically what do women want, okay? Because that's kind of what it comes down to. And what you're going to see later on in this is how they really get into a very interesting sort of scenario that she had with her ex and, you know, the kind of the sort of competing desires that women will often want from men. And it's pretty kind of, it's not what you'd expect, you know, and this is the thing, right? So as guys, we tend to be very logical. We tend to think, okay, right, so A plus B plus C equals D. And it's not really like that because in the female realm, emotion is king, okay? And so therefore, if you are even if you're successful across many, what are the normal arbiters of success in the modern world? Well, they're things like good looks, maybe height, maybe how rich you are, maybe the clothes that you wear, the status symbols, like the cars that you have, all these kinds of things. All right, those are the normal arbiters of, okay, this is a high value man. That's what most people think when we talk about, a high value man. However, you can have those things and you can still not satisfy a woman's innate desire for a masculine figure. Okay, and we're going to look at what she says later and kind of break it down and see an exercise of this in real life, because it's really, really fascinating stuff. Again, we're just, the problem is guys, we're just sort of, we think it's this straightforward thing. We think it's this algorithm where it's like, okay, right, I'll do A, B, C, and D, and then we're good to go. And it really just isn't like that. Let's just have another look at this.
Okay, all right. Them boys? Oh, WFNF as always. But quick question: why y'all bring this grifter pro on? Oh shit! She made a hit piece on y'all when you guys were at your lowest. We didn't forget. She tried bullying y'all. Fuck, pro. God damn, them boy. You have anything you want to say? That obviously is from Rumble.
No, I mean I was wrong. I apologized. So I will say on live on air that I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
I was wrong. So.
And guys, we spoke. She definitely, she's apologized for the better part of a year plus, man. And here's the thing. I think once it happened to her too.
Myron hung up on me the first time.
So this is obviously now referring to the beef that got squashed, and I'm glad that it did. I mean, I don't know the full details of it, but I mean, I'm friends with them. I'm friends with Pearl. They're all good people, and I think it's good that they've managed to sort of get over this and to sort of move forward, because fundamentally everyone's kind of on the same team here, right? And it's just it's unfortunate when people get into these beefs and they just last for a long time, and it's hopefully you can create content then which is going to be a benefit to people, right? Which you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. But it was, you saw Pearl, obviously she apologized, she's very gracious about it, they kind of joke about it and so on and so forth. So there you go. I mean, people who were saying, oh, what about Pearl, is she whatever in the chat? Well, look, I mean, you can see there that very gracious side, the fact that she's willing to just say, hey, listen, I own it, shouldn't have done it, I'm sorry. There you go. So I think that was a laudable thing to do.
I did actually. She called me. I saw this UK number. I was like, "Who's this?" And I was like, and then she was like, "Oh yeah, it's Pro." I just hung up. But hey, man, like I said, you guys been asking for it forever, right? And you guys were like, "Yo, collab with Pro, blah blah blah." Like you guys are on the same team, blah blah. And she is doing good. She's helping a lot of people out. You're really working on it. Oh shit! I don't know if I should say it out loud. You're working on something.
Divorce documentary.
Okay, yes.
I've talked about that.
Okay. Do you want to say something about that real quick?
Well, it's not out yet. We're working on it.
Okay, but what does it cover?
Basically just, I don't know. When I started this thing and I came on your show 3 years ago, I didn't understand why men didn't want to get married. My parents have been married 30 years. They built a business together. I really didn't understand it. And it's just me researching why that is and telling stories of men that have really been negatively affected by the court system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really sad. You can't hear these stories and not have it change your point of view.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will say, being put in you guys' shoes. Oh my gosh. This is,
So once again, for the doubters and the naysayers out there, again, so Pearl's been working on this documentary. She's been speaking to all these guys who've been kind of really screwed over in the family court scenario and so on. And somebody needs to do this, right? Somebody needs to do this work. And the fact that she's doing it and she's championing the situation that these men are in, many of which are in this very, very bad situation in a very unfair way. Okay, I think, again, is a great thing, right? So once more to the naysayers, I think, bear this in mind as well.
Yeah, because everyone turned on you over some bullshit, too.
Yeah.
After doing an interview.
Well, I used to think you guys were really harsh, but it is so hard to control a room. I used to not understand why you didn't say things nicer. And then I was in your shoes and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is impossible.
Yeah. It's something that very few people will ever understand or grasp. But when you're running a podcast with a bunch of people that aren't, creators themselves and don't have mic etiquette, it's a different world. But I mean, I get it. And there's a bunch of other things too that Pearl's been helping us out with behind the scenes. So, hey man, it is what it is. She apologized, guys. So it is what it is. 3 Oh, damn. The Three Diggler says fuck pro. Well, goddamn, nigga.
What the fuck?
Wait, what did they say?
He said fuck pro.
Them niggas going in. Bro.
Yeah, but that's why you don't want me to read this. Yeah, that's why you don't want me to read
It's okay. They can. I don't.
Okay, guys. So let's just move on a little bit, little bit. And if people have got questions on this, or if you want to, you want to comment on this, then please put it into the chat. Let's have a look at this. Hold on. In fact, it would be better if you do have questions, because I want to try and make this as valuable for you guys as possible. So obviously, having a little bit of a surface glance through some of this stuff, then we're going to focus in, I think, on Sukaina and her situation in a few moments. But yeah, if you've got any questions in terms of the podcast or the space or just general dating stuff, put it in the chat and we'll deal with it as we go on.
It on, it's an L. All right. It is an L. But I mean, you can either take it and fix it or leave. So it's like, why is she staying in the relationship and then holding
and
it
then
over?
punishing him?
Yeah, that's just spiteful.
I wanted to see
For
the bit where
what?
Wait, Troy, are you on birth control?
Me, no, I tried very new. Oh, here we go. Here we go. No.
Wait, nigga, how old are you?
I'm 46.
God damn.
Wait,
Yo,
we met when I was 25.
Aw, that's
Wait.
I'm
nice.
46.
Gives us hope.
When I was 20.
where'd you guys meet?
When I came back from America, so here.
We'll just get to the bit where I introduce myself, so I can show you my little intro to my status currently.
Wait, nigga, how old are you?
I'm 46.
God damn.
Wait,
Yo,
we met when I was 25.
Aw, that's
Wait.
I'm
nice.
46.
Gives
Yeah,
us
we met
hope.
when I was 25.
where'd you guys meet?
When I came back from America, so here in UK, in London.
Okay.
Bruh, she
Off and on.
Yo, she was in a relationship since Linkin Park was popping. What the fuck?
I tried so hard.
Got so far.
In the end, it doesn't even matter. 20 years,
God
nothing.
damn,
Okay.
Yo.
Okay.
Holy.
All right, guest of honor.
Britney Spears was still making music, I think. Oh, this is 2004? Hold on, what's going on? T.I. just came out.
Yeah.
Yo. Little
Yo,
John was
know
going
me.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Back in the day.
24. Damn. Okay. Well, we're 2024 now.
Okay.
All right.
Guest of honor.
Are your parents still together?
Oh, wait.
Sorry, last one.
They're not around. They both passed away.
Oh, my condolences. And then birth control?
No.
Okay.
Well, nigga, she's.
I'm not going to really, it's really hard to get pregnant my age.
Fair enough.
Very hard.
Fair.
So JBB, Troy, you don't have to yell. Maybe the level's a bit high. Sorry about that.
Fair enough. Okay. And then the guest of honor.
Troy Francis, dating coach, 21 years old. I'm now back with my girl, so I'm in a relationship
Okay.
as we speak.
Oh.
So very, very new.
A new one?
No, it's from a previous. It's from a while back.
Okay.
So we've just reunited. So I was out with her before
I
the
knew
show.
it was going to happen.
Did you kind of knew,
You
didn't
talked
you?
about her.
I think I know. I'm not going to say it on
air.
air because I know you like to keep that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we just recently kind of reunited, kind of Valentine's kind of thing, you know.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice.
After how long?
3 years.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Who
Yeah.
reinitiated it, Troy?
Yeah.
I kind of reached out.
Okay.
Like I don't like because basically
You put the feelers out.
I put the feelers out. I sent a little text because it was her birthday. Sent a little text. She responded. We started talking, and one thing led to another.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
In other
was the
words,
one
she
that
couldn't find
ruined
better than you. There we go.
Yeah,
We know what that means. Yeah.
Well, he
All right.
messaged her. You maybe can find better than her then.
Yeah, but girls are stubborn. Like they're not going to message you a lot of the times. And then
No,
didn't you
that's
break
not
up
always
with
true.
her? You broke up.
It was ancient history, man. It was kind of. I did some things that maybe she wasn't too happy about.
She left you.
We know that.
Yeah.
She couldn't
So-
take.
Yeah, so trying to be a little bit sort of open here about this stuff. I mean, I was actually having a conversation before with another content creator. It's kind of weird when you're doing this stuff online, and obviously you're talking about things that are very personal, I suppose, right? You know, because dating, obviously, it's you can talk about it as a job, you can theorize about it, you can make all these videos, but it's also something that we engage in ourselves. And then it's like, well, okay, so how much of that do you actually reveal? And you've got to then think about, okay, so what effect is this going to have on the other person as well, or anybody else who's involved? So it's kind of, but I felt like I I felt like it was the right thing to do, just to kind of be as open about it as I could in this scenario.
Like him having other women. Okay. All right. Fair. I mean, he's a Chad. Look at him. James Bond. And Pearl.
Hello.
Hey.
Wait, Troy, are you on birth control?
I try as little as possible.
All right,
as little
cool.
as
Just
possible.
wanted to check and keep it quality. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Is there even birth control for guys, really? Right
I
now?
mean,
There is now.
I know there's
Well,
a pill
yeah.
that they're working on,
So
but it
Well,
hasn't been
I guess you
passed.
could say, do you like to use
condoms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Fair enough.
So this is a long time coming.
Yeah.
We've been off of the camera together for what, almost 2-3 years now. So this is welcome back, Pearl.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for opening up your studio for us. We appreciate that greatly.
Yeah.
But you want to introduce yourself to the people for those that might not.
So that's interesting. So JWB says, I've done that one before with a girl on her birthday, got laid. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of, how can I put it? I mean, it wasn't really like, with all due respect, that makes it sound a little bit crass. It genuinely wasn't really like that. It was more that it was her birthday. And so I just sent out a text basically, and I was umming and ahhing, should I do this, should I not do this, because you don't know what somebody's situation is going to be, you don't know where they're at, what they're up to, etc. And it got later in the day, and I thought, you know what, sod it, life's too short, I'm going to just send a message. So I sent a message, and I didn't know, of course, what the response to that was going to be. I mean, she could have just ignored it, she could have blocked me, she could have whatever, right? So I had no clue what was going to happen at all. And to be honest, not really even any huge sort of like agenda behind it either. It was literally just, okay, I'm going to send you a message and kind of see what happens. Now, in the end, what happened was that she responded. She was surprised, I think, that I'd reached out, but she responded, and we ended up sort of talking a bit on that day. And then I was away at the time anyway. I was out of the country, and I said to her that I was going to, I won't go into all the details, but basically we ended up talking more over a period of time. Then we met up, which was kind of a interesting experience, let's say, because if you've been in something quite intense with somebody, it's a deep sort of relationship, and then you meet them again, and you haven't seen each other for several years. It's quite a big thing for both parties, I think. But we met up. We were in a really nice place. We sat down together. It was in the afternoon, we had some tea, very English, and we talked, and it was all good. And so then we arranged to meet again, and, one thing led to another. But there's a lot of things. I think maybe, obviously going forward, doing some more like relationship type content, and maybe this is something we can talk about, assuming Sakana comes on tomorrow, we can talk a bit more about the relationship side of things as well, because that is obviously a huge component of this. It's not all about just like, oh, can I meet a girl and get laid? It's also, okay, but how do you deal with that side of it as well, which is a very, very big thing. So yeah, we'll see how things go, but it's we're at a good place at the moment, and it was very cool. So, and funnily enough as well, I was out with her actually before we filmed this, and we were having a bite to eat, and it's quite funny because obviously her perspective on some of these issues, the male-female thing, the men's space and everything, are gonna not differ hugely from mine, but obviously you're coming at it from a female perspective as opposed to a male perspective. Some of the things I think that get talked about, not on this show necessarily, but on some of these shows, she's obviously not fully on board with. So we're trying to find that, we have to talk about it and find that point of commonality. I think in general, it's kind of a weird situation for me, because obviously as a content creator, I'm kind of associated with this stuff. It really kind of like, it's more of an issue for me, I suppose, if the person knows what I do. But interestingly, actually, in my group chat, I've got a WhatsApp group chat, by the way, guys. So if you want to get into it, you can email me, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, and I'll put you in the group. But in that, some people were talking the other day about how much about this sort of dating content, this red pill content, should you talk about with women that you are, you're with, right? You're dating, your girlfriend, whatever. I would say very little, to be honest. I would say I don't think there's huge value. I mean, and I do get guys who say, oh yeah, I went on the date with her and I was like lecturing her about, modern women and this and that and the other and red pill truths and all this. And it's like, I mean, why? Like, what's really the value in doing that, right? You know, it's not. You're not on a podcast. You're on a date. You're trying to, you know, build bridges with her, whatever. It's not. You're not really going to impress her. I mean, yeah, women like guys who get it. Okay, so in that sense, I can see the logic, but you don't want to verbally be like explaining, oh, I really understand female psychology because I know all of this stuff, and start reciting it, because that's just going to make you look like a bit of a dog, okay? And a lot of women, as we know, and for various reasons, are resistant to this sort of content. So it's just not doing any favors, man, really. So you might want to just sort of like take a leaf out of that book. What else have we got here in the comments? Don DeMarco, hilarious. Troy Francis, I saw the pod. Congratulations on the LTR ban. You deserve it. Thank you. Well, as I say, look, very much, you know, at the beginning stages of this, it's somebody I care about. You know, somebody I love. It's somebody I care about very deeply. But you know, you kind of reunite with somebody after a period of time. Obviously, there's issues from the past that you have to kind of like try and work through and figure out, and so on. And there's reestablishing trust and all of these different things. So, it is what it is. It's kind of like a process, but something you need to kind of work through. And again, maybe if people are interested, this is something we can do more content on, because one of the things I suppose I've probably done less content on in the past is more the long-term relationship stuff. So this is something we can start to explore a bit more. JWB says, glad to hear it. My girlfriend knows nothing about this. Yeah. Don DeMarco says, 0 RP content with my girl. She doesn't even see my YouTube access on my phone. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think it has to be some... It's not like it's some terrible dark... It depends how you view the content. I don't think it has to be some terrible dark secret. You know, you might be watching Chris Williamson, right? You might be watching Psych Hacks or something. You know, some of these people are pretty inoffensive, really. We're not talking about this, oh my God, it's this horrendously misogynistic content or anything like that. But even then, I just don't think it's really... You might want to talk about it in a more general way. Like you might, because women like to talk about relationships and they like to talk about, you know, is a more general thing, you know, men and women and stuff like that. You might want to say, oh, what do you think about modern dating? What do you think about the way that Instagram has affected things, or the dating apps? Don't you think it's a shame that people don't meet in real life as much now? So on. You might want to take it down that route, for example. But I wouldn't start, you know, just making out like it's like an episode of Fresh and Fit or something. It's just not going to do you any favors on the date.
Not know who you are? I think they know.
Yeah,
who you
so
are.
my name's Pearl. I'm 27. I play volleyball here in the UK. Other than that, I'm unemployed because I'm demonetized. What were the other questions?
Dating status?
Yeah.
I just started dating someone.
Right. Okay. Well, that was a bit of a mic drop moment. I don't know whether anyone was quite expecting her to say that, but that was interesting. So she reveals this. I think for the first time on here, which is kind of interesting.
Oh,
You heard
it here
You heard it here first?
You have to tell us.
Is he a member of the BBC gang?
Is he here?
Definitely.
Is
You can't keep it to yourself.
Just say it, nigga.
no.
He's not black.
No, he's not. Black.
Good.
Oh,
Is he English?
Is he
I
taller than
don't
you?
want the internet stop.
okay.
'Cause
Is he taller than you?
I don't want to answer a ton of questions about just because I don't want
And it's new.
the internet will harass them.
No,
Yeah.
that's true.
Okay.
So he's a regular guy. Like,
Yeah, he's
just,
a normal guy.
And taller than
Okay.
you or what?
We're the same height.
Cute.
Well, she's right about that. And again, this is something we might be talking about tomorrow when Sakina comes on, because she's a content creator as well. And there is this whole, I guess it kind of relates back to what I said before. There's this whole sort of like thing of, okay, so how much do you reveal, right, publicly? And when you're somebody like Pearl, who's got nearly 2 million subscribers and, you know, a massive Twitter account and so on and so forth, you do have to be careful about what you reveal, because there's some pretty crazy people out there, is the point. And I mean, I know that there's content creators who they've had like exes dug up from the past, and then those have been put online, and all of this kind of thing. It's very there's some very odd, unhinged people out there who just sort of like. It's very hard to understand the mentality of why you would spend time, even if it's not very much time, but you're still spending time and energy delving in to the personal lives of people that you just don't know. Okay, like people in a fairly niche area of the internet, delving into people's personal lives and sort of trying to cause problems and so on. It's a very, very odd mentality. But sadly, there are people out there like that. So obviously, rightly so, she has to be somewhat circumspect about what she's going to say. And you've also always got to think about the other people in this, right? Because it's like, you may have chosen to ruin your life by putting yourself on camera talking about dating 24/7. That's fine. That's my choice. But somebody else doesn't necessarily want to be brought into that. Okay. And this is why actually when people sometimes will say, I mean, I've seen situations where family members say of a content creator are posted online and they say, oh, look at this is his daughter, this is his wife, this is his whatever. And the justification then is like, well, it's okay because she's got a public Instagram account or it's already available online, so it's fine. But it's not really, because what you're doing is you're bringing them into the context of the person's professional work, right? Which they might not want to. Say it was a content creator who's got some pretty contentious political views, right? And then he's got a daughter or he's got a girlfriend. When you're then taking photos of her, from her Instagram, even if say the Instagram is public, and then you're putting it, you're saying, hey, this is her daughter, you are identifying her in a context that she may not want to be identified with. She may not be happy with that, right? You haven't asked her permission. So yeah, technically you can say, well, it's not doxing, whatever. But we all know that ethically, really, it's pretty shabby behavior. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. Nomini says this will blow up for sure. I know potential when I see it. Keep going, Troy. Thanks ever so much, man. I really appreciate that. We're going to be changing up the format of the channel going into March. We're going to be doing probably more like longer form video. So more like sort of 18, 20-minute videos where we're talking about a specific issue and putting it out there and going into detail. Trying to keep it as actionable as possible, really, really sort of delving deep into different aspects of the dating marketplace, female sexuality, female sexual selection strategies, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot to look forward to. But yeah, no, thank you. I do appreciate that, man. And for everybody here and anybody here, if you haven't subscribed, please do. That would, really, really help out. And also give the video a like. We've got 18 people here now, so if we can get at least 18 likes, that would be fantastic. Max Paul says, Pearl's got herself a man then. Damn, that leaves me out of the chat. And then Max Paul's John Anthony lifestyle. Well, what are you referring to him making a video about? Well, he made a video about me, but I mean, the stuff in it was so like out of date. Like I didn't even watch the whole video, right? Because I don't tend to watch things when people do stuff about me. But I think he was, referring to some girl that I kind of dated about like 15 years ago or something like that. I mean, it was, it was so out of date. It was just completely irrelevant.
At least, wait, does he get angry?
Yo. Do you want to speak on that or no? It's up to you.
Okay. Let's.
But
we're going to speed on a little bit now. So then they got into the main discussion. As I said, this thing was damn long. It was like 4.5 hours long.
The worst one was when
and
I
you guys called
and you know the term for
no, sorry.
knickers and stuff, but you guys say pants.
Yeah.
No,
your underwear or
pants
your
are
underwear.
trousers.
the worst one.
Yeah,
Yes.
because this was at some point to my baby mum or to my wife because she's tired or whatever.
Their mindset.
That's the exception, not the rule.
No,
Most
listen.
guys go on it.
I'm not looking for most guys.
When someone
Well-
has ambition, someone has goals, someone.
no one gives a they might be like, oh, cool, Oprah Winfrey's in here. But at the end of the day, the most attractive.
You're doing your business meetings, you're doing this. Girls are part of the entertainment. And the thing is, and what I
Interesting. Someone else had something that they wanted to say? So none of you would accept, obviously, all of you disagree with the whole. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So what then started to happen, one of the threads of conversation that came out here was around what women look for in men, obviously, pretty standard stuff. And what Myron was pointing out was that often women will talk about wanting a guy with potential, right? Or wanting a guy with ambition. And Myron pointed out, look, really, what does that mean? It's a proxy for money. So she wants a guy with money. If he doesn't have the money now, that's okay, as long as he's got the potential, as long as he's got the ambition, the drive, she can see something in him. And this relates particularly to younger guys, but I think to guys of all ages. As long as she can see that thing in him that's like, okay, this guy's going to be successful, then she's happy to sort of let it ride for a period of time. But the understanding is always she wants really that guy to be on a higher level than her. Now, again, I think this is one of these things that gets talked up a lot in the manosphere. Is it universally true? No. I mean, obviously, there are relationships where the woman out-owns the guy, maybe even supports the guy. There are house husbands, that kind of stuff happens. But, as with all of these things, you have to look at it in general terms. Generally speaking, women want a man that they can kind of look up to. And as Michael Sartain has said, money is a proxy for competency, okay? Because how is competency measured in the real world? Well, if you get more money, if you accrue more money, that implies competency, okay? Because you've been able to do something well in order to accrue that money, okay? So it's, and here's the thing. Now, Myron was using the word gold digger, and that triggered a lot of the girls, and the girls were kind of objecting to the use of that word. And one of the girls on the panel was saying, look, I mean, that's implying, in fact, maybe we'll try and find it, but she was kind of saying, look, that's implying that every woman, there's a spectrum of gold diggerness, right? From somebody who's just literally there for this transactional thing versus somebody who just wants to get supported and, have a nice life, have a roof over their head. And I do accept that. I think that's true. But it was very much the terminology that they were triggered by as opposed to the underlying truth. Because then when Myron asked the panel, okay, so would you guys be happy paying, 50% of the bills or whatever? The majority of the women said no, they would rather be supported by the guy. Okay. So it's kind of interesting how, on the one hand, obviously they objected to this idea of this more transactional nature of dating and relationships. But when it comes to the crunch, what are they actually looking for? Well, really, many women are looking for a guy who is going to be able to support them. Okay.
I do have something to say. I would say it really depends on kind of where you are in life. So, for example, in African culture, right? You can have like 10 children with the same woman, but then it gets to a point where the woman, number one, she's tired, she's taking care of the kids, she's busy, she's doing her own thing. That's your wife, right? So you, as a high value man, especially because I'm talking from the perspective of successful men. Okay.
Yep.
You can go outside, you're doing your business meetings, you're doing all of this. Girls are part of the entertainment. And the thing is, and what I've noticed from observing this sort of situation is that the respect comes from the fact that the woman remains the queen and that's it. You don't disrespect. The girlfriend could never come chat to the wife ever in her life. And he would never, ever even leave a whiff of the fact that he's got maybe a girlfriend or a girl that entertains him through these things. Now, I say that and I know that to be the case because I have like 10 siblings. Out of my mum, we're only 4. And there's different.
Yeah, okay. So Divalna, I think her name is, she's been on Pearl's show quite a number of times, and she certainly provides entertainment factor because she is pretty sort of forthright in her opinions. She's kind of entertaining and well, some would say entertaining, some might say something else, but she's out there, and she's happy to argue her point. So she makes for good content, although not everyone's obviously going to agree with what she has to say. But we got it then into this whole thing about, okay, so what about fidelity, right? Would a woman accept a man who is high value, but occasionally cheats? Okay, and this is a hugely contentious issue for women, and I get it, right? I do get it. Now, actually, talking about Shian Roberts again, I don't know if I mentioned her before, but when she interviewed Andrew Tate, there's a nice clip of her when she's kind of how can I put it? She's kind of challenging Tate. And she's saying, look, what kind of woman like would accept what you're trying to offer here, which is basically like, okay, I'm going to have it my way. You can do, you have to be at home and you have to be domestic and all the rest of it, but I'm going to go out, and sometimes if I want to, you know, sleep with other people, then that's cool because I'm the guy. And she basically just shut that down and said, well, what self-respecting woman is going to accept that? Okay. And, you know, again, you've got to look at the gray areas in all of this stuff. Okay. You've got to look between the lines in all of this stuff, because on the one hand, you know, we will often say, well, women would prefer to share a high value man than they would to be with a guy who's, you know, the kind of loser, but, well, again, we're talking stereotypes, but say the loser who is super loyal, whatever, right? Okay, so, and there is truth in that, okay? There is some truth in that, but equally, there is also truth in the fact that there are some women who would just not countenance the other thing, which is being in a one-sided open relationship where the guy gets to do what he wants. You know, there are some women who are just not gonna accept that either, okay? So, whenever you watch these shows and you're kind of forming opinions about the world, you've got to sort of, I mean, the very best thing to do, really, and I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. The very best thing, I was recording myself on my phone for some reason. The very best thing that you need to do, really, is basically go out and touch grass. And actually, you can watch this content. You know, it's great, it's educational, it's fun, whatever, and you'll learn stuff. But equally, going out and experiencing stuff for yourself is so important, because if you just sort of like watch things on the internet and then just believe everything you see on the internet, and that's your only point of reference, then you're probably going to get things wrong, right? Because sometimes people like exaggerate for effect. Sometimes there's hyperbole. You know, not everyone is always arguing in good faith. You know, they bring up examples that are outliers. There's all these different things going on in terms of what gets presented to you on the internet. So this is why, as a dating coach, we always say to people, look, really, it should be 10% theory, which is you maybe watching a show like this, or maybe reading a book or an article or watching a video about how to talk to girls. And then it should be 90% you going out and actually taking action. Because when you go out into the real world and you interact, what you find is, for the most part, you know, women are complicated beings, but they're very nice. They can be very, you know, it's not as black and white as you will sometimes get the impression that it is from shows like this, okay? Oh.
This will at some point with to my baby mum or to my wife because she's tired or whatever, and I'm out here still. That's not okay, and that's one thing that needs.
I don't want to broke.
No,
okay.
I said he's not going to be broke, and I'll tell you why. Yeah,
take time to get to know someone.
Interesting point. Do all of you agree with? You want a guy that other men respect like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So you guys
being 100% loyal to you, and you're out here being a trash, like
all right,
absolutely.
real quick. So to me,
disrespecting.
Okay, so to me,
exactly.
You leave it out,
and that not only that, African men have got hot blood, so they can't.
I'm not gonna lie.
it.
Then clearly they just haven't got good
Manner.
principles.
All right, so this is interesting, right? So this is the crux of this matter, which is, on the one hand, some of the women here are sort of accepting the fact, okay, men are driven biologically, so they might sleep around, and you know, and there's this question basically which Myron is posing, which is, okay, so if you meet a quote unquote high value man, but there's a possibility that he might occasionally stray because he's got plenty of options. As a woman, do you just accept that and go with it, or do you not? Okay, and there's obviously differing opinions around the panel on this, right? It's interesting actually. So Divalna talks about African men who she says have hotter blood, and so that's part and parcel. And I think one of the other girls on here says something similar. I mean, I don't know about that. I think how cultural it is, I'm not sure, but. This is where we get to the real, like, interesting sort of meat and drink of the thing, really, because it's like, well, and this is where, again, you've got to sort of like take everything with a bit of a pinch of salt, because you read something on the internet, you're like, oh, right, so women will always share a high value man. And you're like, okay, right, that's it. You've taken that as fact. But if you haven't actually been out and talked to any girls, or you haven't dated any women for like the last 5 or 10 years, then you don't really know what you're talking about, because in reality, what might happen, it very much depends on the nature of the relationship and the stage of the relationship that you're in. But generally speaking, you know, women will, in the end, players get dumped. Okay, like guys who go around and they're sleeping with multiple women, you might be able to keep that going for a period of time, but in the end, she's probably going to dump your ass, because in the end, she's looking for something else. Most women, in the end, they are looking for some form of stability. Okay, I don't know, you know, like it's So, and again, but that's a problem in terms of female psychology, because there's this sort of divide with female psychology between the desire for drama and the desire for excitement, and then on the other side, the desire for stability and for, you know, a home life and support and everything else. You know, and this is why this stuff gets so nuanced, you know? It's why this stuff gets very nuanced, very difficult to sort of navigate. It's not impossible, but it is nuanced, and you have to kind of understand it. You've got to kind of see it from all sides, which I think is why actually talking to women on these shows is really valuable. Because yes, I know somebody said earlier in the chat, would you ask a fish how to fish, or would you ask a fisherman? Well, I get that, but at the same time, we have to try and have some kind of understanding of this from the other side. Otherwise, we're onto a losing game.
Listen, Angolan men, let me tell you. Listen, Angolan men is a very known...
They're trifling. That's why you don't go for Angolan men.
Exactly.
You leave it out.
And that is mostly in most African cultures, because it's something that's been perpetuated. And
that's what I think is wrong. See, now kids are growing up thinking, oh yeah, in my African culture, it's okay for me to do this at some point to my baby mum or to my wife because she's tired or whatever, and I'm out here still. That's not okay, and that's one thing that needs to really be decoded from these generations. No,
I'm not sure about that actually, and I was going to sort of object at the time to that, because I'm not sure that that's actually happening. If anything, I would say probably the opposite is happening, because what she's basically saying is, oh, these new younger generations are being taught it's okay for a guy to just go out and do what he wants and cheats and blah, blah, blah. I would say, if anything, the prevailing social narrative is very much against that, okay? Because, look, you know, the term toxic masculinity exists for a reason, right? You know, this behavior is increasingly being called out in the culture, right? I don't think it's being more encouraged. It was, if anything, it was probably more encouraged in the past when it was like, oh, boys will be boys, yeah, do your thing, blah, blah, blah. I would say now, if anything, it's going the other way. In favor of the women. So I'm not entirely convinced by her argument. So here, Max says, John Anthony Lifestyle, I'm mentioning him because you are talking about guys digging up people's past, personal lives, attacking. It's kind of stalking what he does at times. Lol, he could probably get sued if not careful. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I don't really watch his stuff very much, to be honest. I mean, what can I say, man? I think it's like you got to address the argument, not the man, right? Okay. What's the football analogy? You got to tackle the ball, not the man, or whatever, right? It's like conceivably there could be somebody who is dating a woman that other guys in the space don't regard as being particularly attractive, right? But his insights and his knowledge might be absolutely spot on, and he might have a lot to bring to the party. So it's ad hominem, really. And first of all, for one thing, levels of attractiveness are somewhat subjective. Okay, so you know, my idea of a 10, let's say, is going to be different from the next person's idea of a 10, and I know this for a fact because you know, when I've traveled around with guys, I have guy friends. Obviously, I know their tastes as far as women are concerned, and we do differ quite a lot. You know, that there will be women that I think are really, really attractive, and then there's going to be women who objectively I can see are attractive, and my friend really likes her, but she's just not my vibe. So that's one problem that you have on the internet, because they see a picture of this girl and they're just like, oh yeah, she's not hot. But it's like, well, firstly, there's that subjectivity around that, and secondly, regardless of that, the really important thing is not that, because that's not your business. That's him and his personal life. The really important thing is his information useful? Is his information helping you to make the changes in your life that you want to change? Okay? And if it is, then in a sense, whatever he's doing is irrelevant. I mean, I remember some years ago, say, RSD, right? So Tyler from RSD, and there were some pictures of, and I didn't look into it very much, but I was scrolling. I saw some pictures of a woman that supposedly Tyler was with. I don't know if it was true or not. And you know, yeah, she didn't look hugely amazing. Did that make me lose respect for him or stop watching his content? No, absolutely not, because his content really, really helped me at that time in my life. It really opened my eyes to new concepts around dating and new concepts around, you know, how to get where I wanted to be in the dating marketplace. He could have been dating, I don't know, like a bloody Picasso painting, as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't really matter, because that's not what I need from him. Okay. And I think this is why when you select content creators to follow, I think gut feeling is quite important. You've got to look at the person, listen to what they have to say, look at how they present themselves, and think, what's my gut telling me here? Does it seem like this person knows what they're on about? All right, on a gut level, does it seem like this person knows what they're on about? And if you get a good gut feeling, then fine, carry on. If you get a bad gut feeling and you're just like, oh, this seems a bit scammy, it seems a bit gimmicky, I've heard all this before, it sounds like he's just repeating stuff from other people, then that's not a good sign. So, you know, and that's going to be harder. That's going to be harder for guys who are new to this stuff. I get it. But it really, I don't know, man. Firstly, I think it's ethically wrong to be bringing people's, you know, partners or girlfriends or whatever into the picture anyway. I don't think that's really a good thing for anybody to be doing. It's pretty scummy, to be honest. And secondly, it's sort of irrelevant, because the most important thing is not that. You know, like, who knows why he's with her? Maybe they were childhood sweethearts. They've loved each other, you know, and there's things about her that he loves that you don't know. It's not all about that, okay? So as I say, the most important thing for you as the viewer, as the person who's trying to get something out of this content, is the content any good or not? Okay, that's really all that matters. So the OTT says, I think at the end of the day, Dr. Robert Glover has it spot on. Just go out and be mega bold and social and test many women for interest. Also, the looks maxing and money maxing side of that. Yes, absolutely. So I would agree with that, right? And Dr. Glover actually is a good case in point. Now, to be fair, I haven't seen a picture of his. I think he's married now. I think he was saying in those videos he's got a Mexican wife or whatever. I haven't seen a picture of her. I am told by a friend of mine who has seen some pictures, not necessarily of her, but of other women that he's been with, that they weren't all that. Okay? So, okay, right. It might be that Dr. Robert Glover has not pulled a string of Victoria's Secret's supermodels. Okay? That may be true, right? Does that mean that his work is less valuable? Does that mean that I can't learn anything from Dating Essentials for Men, or No More Mr. Nice Guy, or the frequently asked questions on Dating Essentials for Men, or watching his videos? No, absolutely not. Because regardless of the quality or otherwise of, you know, the women that he deals with personally, he clearly understands these concepts. He's able to articulate them and to motivate and to help guys, you know, on a mass scale. Okay. And certainly reading his work, you know, I take some of it with a pinch of salt. There's some things I don't agree with, but there's other things that I really, really do agree with. Like basically what's been said here. This, you know, basically going out, being super social, looking for signs of high interest and also availability, right? 100% on board with that. I don't really care what his wife looks like. Why does that matter? You know, like, it doesn't matter. I don't give a damn. Like, my taste is going to be different to his anyway. Okay, so it's a bit of a straw man, to be honest. It's kind of ad hominem and it's kind of a straw man at the same time. Really, to sort of focus in on this stuff. Ben says, spot on commentary. Thanks, man. Good to see you. Hope you are recovering. And glad that you're watching this nonsense. Thank you for supporting. Max says, 10 out of 10s are mega rare. And these days, it seems even 7 and 8s are rare. Most women are just healthy and skillfully make up. I once blew it with a solid 10 and still regret it. Okay, yeah, but I would almost bet my life savings that our tastes are different. Like, what you regard as a 10 is, I bet you, is different to what I regard as a 10. And again, you know, this is one of these things, like, people assume, like, oh yeah, man, you know, it's all the same, you know, they just like whatever, you know, they all like the same. There really is a lot of differences in terms of what men think are. I mean, I was showing actually Fresh a picture, some pictures of my girl yesterday, and he was like, yeah, you've really got a type, haven't you? And I was like, yes, I have. Now, is my type going to be the same as Fresh's? No, probably not, right? who cares? It's kind of irrelevant, right? What's important is what is the information that I'm imparting? What is the information that Fresh is imparting? Is it inspirational? Is it motivational? Does it help you in your life? If it does, great. If it doesn't, sod it, right? The vast majority of 10 out of 10s are in their 20s, and when they say young women don't like older men, it's only a small... And when they say young women don't mind older men, it's only a small selection of older men. That might be true. I mean, yeah, it depends where you are in the world. It depends what the cultural expectations are. I mean, like if you know, yeah, UK, USA, Canada, stuff like that, then yeah, I mean, big age gap differences tend to be, you know, not quite the thing to do. But if you go to like other places, Russia, Latin America, probably Southeast Asia, it's less of a big deal. So, you know, there's a number of variables there. And then the O1C says, Max, how did you ruin it with the girl? Does he answer that? She offered me round to hers after the first date for fun at her place, and I didn't go out of shyness. I know. I'm into improving now. Well, that was a, you know, you dropped the ball there, man, unfortunately, because you absolutely should have gone round. Because the problem is, so what often happens in dating is with women is that they will give you a window of opportunity. Okay, so it's like, okay, right. And if a girl says to you, all right, come, if she put it like that, she's like, come around to my place for fun, and then you don't go, then there's a good chance she's actually going to feel rejected by that. And she's going to like, well, all right, well, fuck this guy. And often then the window of opportunity closes, slams shut, and that's it, and you're done. Okay? This has happened to me in the past, okay? So when somebody gives you the green light in that way, it really, really makes sense. I mean, this even happened to me within the last few years. I remember, and the reason I didn't act on it was because I was super, super tired. We were teaching some students. I had to be up early the next morning, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I just can't do it. I'm too knackered. I'm too exhausted. And guess what? You know, that window closed. It never really reopened again. And there it is. So yeah, you know, just be mindful of that. Because it's a bit like a sort of a, you know, it's a bit like one of those one-off sales and stuff. And it's like, okay, the sale is on now, but if you don't buy now, you're not going to be able to buy again. And sometimes that's true, right? Sometimes, you know, you think, oh, I can buy it next week. It's fine. Sometimes the sale closes and then that is it forever. Max pause. I'm a bit suspicious of Robert Glover. He claims since becoming bald. Are you saying bold or bald? And being comfortable in his skin, he notices lots of young women giving him IOIs everywhere. He goes, yet he's still married. Well, so what? That doesn't mean it's not true. So that, okay, right. So that's interesting. So then this girl that Max, she invited him round. Max didn't go out of shyness. Then he contacted her again, and then she ghosted him. Okay, it's a familiar story, right? Unfortunately, it's a familiar story because she'd opened that window of opportunity. Max, for whatever reason, hadn't gone round. You know, she's like, you know, we tend to think that women are like super, super confident. They're like, yeah, I'm hot, yeah, whatever, you know, no problems. They're really not. There's a lot of women that can be very insecure, and she might have felt rejected by that. She might have just been pissed off. It's like, well, look, I gave this guy this golden ticket, and he just couldn't even be bothered to come round. And you know, women can be very ruthless with, you know, it just switches off. It's like, okay, fuck him, that's it. It's not happening. Okay, I don't care what he does. That's it. And it sounds like that's what happened in this instance. So again, you know, the lesson there is, particularly when somebody gives you the green light in that way, a woman says, you know, come over or let's do this. Often, you got to think, oh, no, I'm so tired. I've got to be up at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, but I'm going to go anyway because this opportunity may not arise. You know, we tend to, in our brain, think, oh, it's fine. We can just do it next week or whatever. May never happen, right? It may never happen again. So, you know, fortune favors the brave. Yeah, it's over 9K. Said she probably felt humiliated and rejected. She, quite possibly. again, if we get Sakina on tomorrow, we can talk about this. We can ask her what she thinks. Sukaina, I should say. Quite a few comments. Keep them coming. Keep the comments coming. Keep the questions coming. Max pause. I just think it's a bit strange. He's talking about Robert Glover again. That now he's comfortable in his own skin. All young women want him, and he even says female cats are drawn to him. It just seems a bit exaggerated, but maybe. Yeah. Oh, I know. Okay. I don't know about that. I mean, yeah. I can't really comment on that. I didn't realize he was saying cats are into him. I think it's a little bit of a stretch. I mean, look. You know. Who am I to say? I mean, he's not in bad shape. He looks okay. I mean, obviously he's bald, but that's fine. You know, he's got a beard. He's quite well put together. It seems like a bit of a stretch to imagine that he's walking around. He's just get all these 20-somethings are like, you know, kind of like giving him eyes the whole time. But I mean, you don't know it because a lot of it as well. It kind of energy is very important. All right, the way that he comes across. We've seen him sitting behind a desk being interviewed by people. What we haven't seen, or I haven't seen anyway, maybe it's elsewhere on the internet, is him in a social situation and how he comes across and his body language and his eye contact and stuff. So who knows? But again, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Okay, it doesn't I don't really care how many IOIs Robert Glover gets. That's not really. It doesn't affect my life one way or the other. What does affect my life is the advice in his book, particularly Dating Essentials for Men, was really, really good. And it really, even for me, having been doing this stuff for a long time, it really reframed my sense of, okay, so how do you go about doing game? And he really simplified it, and he created a little model that is actually super, super simple, but really effective. And it actually, people talk about approach anxiety. It almost helps to reduce approach anxiety because it's so simple. Because all you're doing really is going up and saying hi and seeing how she reacts. And if she doesn't react very well, you just walk away again. Because what you're looking for is, again, high interest versus low interest. So it's you know, I just don't really care that much whether he's married anyway. So who cares, right? You know what I'm saying? Do you get where I'm coming from? The 9/11. I agree, Troy. He ruined it big time. She was offering him the box on the first date, and he refuses. Unbelievable. Okay, well, yeah, but you know, we all make mistakes. These things happen. Lily's Ben says, I think fertility is important too. Don DeMarco, a bit off topic, but do I remember correctly, the older 40s woman behind you didn't say much during that, did she? No, she didn't. She didn't talk very much, actually, for some reason. I don't know why. Max pause. In a recent podcast, he mentioned that Robert Glover, he's now very attractive to the feminine, including animals. Basically, I think he's saying that his aura is attracting feminine powers, but I like his work. Okay, well, okay. I mean, I don't know about that, really. John, he's full of it. Women know men who shave their head are bald, and they hate goatees more than any other facial hair. Well, yeah, but there's plenty of bald guys who are dating, man. I mean, you can't. It's not universal. Like women hate all bald guys. It's just not the case, right? The O1T says, and also I used to fall into the trap of IOIs, especially from shop staff, but usually they are just being nice, smile, and friendly. They're not always IOIs. So, okay, well, that's another whole topic for another day. But what he's talking about there is indicators of interest. So maybe the woman smiles at you, she holds eye contact, you know, she looks at you for a bit longer than necessary. And often the guy can be like, oh my God, you get super excited. You go over and talk to her, and then she's like, yeah, sorry, I've got a boyfriend. It is worth making an approach if you see what you consider to be, you know, an indicator of interest from her. It's absolutely worth going over there and having a conversation, but it's not a guarantee. You're right. So I suppose he's referring to Glover there in the sense that, yeah, these women might be smiling at him. Would they jump into bed with him? We don't know. Maybe not. Maybe some of them would. Maybe some of them wouldn't. But once again, it's all sort of irrelevant, really, because the key thing is, can you get something out of his content or not that's going to help you in your dating life? Because I don't really care Like, I don't really care if Robert Glover is getting laid every night or not. Like, how does that affect my life? Like, it's completely irrelevant to me. What I care about is my own dating life. Okay, so I think that's the way we need to view this. Is the information helpful or not? All right. Okay. All right. Let's go back to the video a minute.
No matter what culture you're in, no matter what it is, if it's not part of your, like, I know that there's a culture where men have multiple wives. I can't remember which one it is, but
Middle
it's
Eastern.
Middle Eastern, yeah. But I just think if you're in a relationship, be loyal. If you don't want to be in a relationship, don't be in
single,
a relationship.
yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? If you want to go out and have your fun, go and have your fun, but don't be having someone else in the back you're committed to, and they're thinking, and they're being 100% loyal to you, and you're out here being a trash. Like,
All right,
Absolutely.
real quick.
a
So
dickhead
to
and
me,
disrespecting.
okay. So to me, just so I make sure I understand everyone's stances here. So you understand it. You don't agree with it. You don't agree with it at all. You're saying that you understand that men are going to do it if they have money.
Even men
Right.
with money,
You
even
understand?
even
Okay.
men with money have
Especially
respect. It depends
men
which
with
man
money
of
are the ones.
That
Because
are gonna do
men
it.
with money are the ones, like I said, men with money are usually the ones that are out of the home because
Yeah.
they're doing their own thing.
It's
They're
different
if they
mostly
got
also
money.
amongst men.
Interesting.
And then
Okay.
when men are all men, nobody wants a sausage fest. There's girls to entertain. Do you know what I mean? And it
Okay.
just happens like that sometimes, I think. But
Okay.
not every man.
So would
is
you
like that.
accept that from a higher status guy? You.
This is the thing. I am not looking for that type of man. I'm looking for a different type of man.
Low status.
I like
Guys that you say I don't want to break hearts of?
no, it's the person.
And that's where Myron's note-taking really comes into play, because he's referring back to something that she said earlier about not wanting to break hearts or something. And the meticulousness of the way that he does this is very good, because he will connect the dots in terms of what maybe they said before, and maybe they start to contradict themselves, and that's really interesting. But I mean, to be honest, I mean, all of the stuff with Divana, it got incredibly, I mean, drama-y, and it felt like she was contradicting herself, because on the one hand she was saying money's not important to her, she's not looking for a stereotypical high-value man, but then on the other hand she was kind of describing what you would regard as being the ultimate high-value man, and it's kind of like, well, okay, but if you want those things, do you have to compromise a bit? That's, I think, where Myron was coming from. We'll have a little look anyway.
That I will end up with will be a very quiet person.
Oh.
That's it.
Interesting.
Composed.
Because it's like she's almost setting it up where it's like, yeah, the person I will end up with, which is like she's already presetting, like, I need to get my fun now before I go with the boring guy.
No, it's not that. I
Yeah.
actually like quiet people. This is the thing.
So why aren't you with him
Men-
now?
Because
What's stopping you from being with him now?
because you don't rush these things. That's the
things
thing.
take time.
You do not like quiet people.
No,
I've met
actually-
your friend group. They're not
No,
quiet.
listen, this is the thing. My friend group is not my man, is it? If I wanted to date my friends, I'll be with them.
Are you
innit?
looking for?
I just didn't
I think
know,
you want someone who grounds you.
Yeah, I want the opposite of
Yeah,
me, because
that's
I'm
like
quite
me.
talkative. I want somebody that's quiet,
Are
that's
you
not
looking for
bothered
s-
by me, like being able to just have a light on me all the time.
Are you looking for somebody
like
who's
it.
going to be submissive to you? Is that what
No,
you're saying?
I'm just looking for somebody that's so comfortable that he doesn't even need to talk.
To be honest, opposites do work really well
So it
together.
sounds like you're doing all the talking. He's just sitting there taking your.
No, I just
Yeah,
want.
I had
Okay,
that,
sounds
and
like
it's
it to
not.
me.
I'll explain to you what I mean. Okay, the type of man that I like is the type of man that can walk down the street and every single man will look at him and be like, "Yeah, that's the guy." He doesn't have to talk. That's the type of man
the
that I
energy.
like.
But
Where-
he's also
the energy-
incredibly submissive in a
the
relationship.
energy-
No, that doesn't
Like-
mean submissive.
That's
And
different.
that means that you're quiet enough. Even me, if every guy you're walking down the street don't even need to talk and everybody can recognize your power, how am I, as a woman, not going to recognize? And that's what I mean. I want a man that is able, with just his presence and his energy, to not even have to talk, just assert his masculinity just by being there. There's
right.
guys that can
Yeah.
do that.
Okay, so you do
100%.
understand. You made a
And it's
very
sexy as well.
interesting point. Do all of you agree with? You want a guy that other men respect like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
fuck yeah.
so
So they all agree with that.
you guys understand that the metric that men use to respect each other is far different than what you guys use to respect each other, correct?
Yeah.
Because women respect each other based on beauty, right?
Oh, and status and all of this.
No, you guys respect each other on beauty. You guys don't give a fuck about status. Like, for example, if Oprah Winfrey walked into a room with a bunch of Instagram models, no one gives a they might be like, oh, cool, Oprah Winfrey's in here. But at the end of the day, the most attractive woman understands that I'm the most attractive and she has the most status in that room because we don't, like, from a sexual market value standpoint, right? So, like, you mentioned that you want a guy that, like, he could walk into a room and other men respect him, right? Well, men respect competence and meritocracy. We don't respect the same things that you guys do.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes down to your ability to earn money.
Yeah.
So if you want a guy that could command the respect of other men, that means he has to be extremely accomplished and he's probably a high earner, which means he's going to come with other women too.
Okay, can I tell you something? So, for example, me, a lot of the men that I do know, they are extremely respected, especially in the community, and not because they're rich, because they're
Then
real
why aren't
men.
you with them?
What did I just say?
Good question.
Okay, what did I say about my
takes
relationship
time.
status? Did I tell you I was single? Did I tell you I was dating on? I left
Yeah.
it ambiguous for a reason.
Denelva, you don't like him enough to just say
Listen,
no. I'm
you're
taken,
talking,
don't like
you're
Yeah.
talking smoke without actually even asking me the right questions. Because if you asked me the right questions, you would know the answer to
But
all
why
of
would
this.
you, if you really
So-
like him, why would you want to leave
But
it ambiguous?
Listen.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah, so as it's over 9K says, she wants a high value man. She wants a high value yes man, pretty much, which I think that's kind of what it sounded like to me. And I think that Myron was then equating it with, like, well, because men admire competency in other men, a marker of that, as we've said, is financial. So therefore, typically, the high value man might be a guy who's rich. Now, that there are other things, because then I think she starts to link it more to physicality, right? So you could be, another way to be respected is your physicality, right? So you could be somebody who looks unfuckwithable, right? So he gets that respect because he's walking down the street and he looks very physically capable and all the rest of it. So yes, that might be another element of it. And I think the important lesson to this, I mean, who knows what she wanted really, because it was kind of going around in circles. But I mean, I think an important lesson to take from this is that we will often talk about female hypergamy, which is the female desire to date either on the same level or ideally above, right? She's looking for a guy who is, hopefully above her in some form. But the nuance here, and this is the bit that people always miss, is that there are different ways in which hypergamy can be measured, okay? So yes, money is one of them, right? Yes, good looks is one of them. Yes, being super muscular is another one, right? But she might be with, and we see an example of this later, okay? And this is what we're kind of leading up to here. It might be that he's super high value in the sense that he's got a lot of money and he's got assets, okay? However, then after a period of time, the woman might think, do you know what? I'm kind of getting a bit bored with this now. I've kind of been to these yacht parties already. I've kind of drunk this champagne several times before. I've been to these restaurants. It's all a bit like dull. Do you know what? Actually, I don't want that kind of guy anymore. I want the guy who's like super like street tough. He's a bit of a bad boy. The money thing isn't as important to me anymore. Actually, I want a different kind of high value man. Okay. And this is the problem that guys have, because most of us are not going to be ticking off all of the boxes, right? We might be ticking off some of them. You might be watching this and you're very rich, or you might be watching this and you're good looking or whatever, but maybe you lack social skills, or maybe you're good looking but you don't have money, or maybe you are rich but you're not very good looking, or you're not very tall or whatever, right? Like most of us, just by definition, it's very rare to find a guy who's ticking off all of the boxes, okay? And that's the problem, because after she's been with you, she appreciates you for a certain thing for a period of time. But the issue is what happens when she gets a bit bored with that and she's thinking, but actually, hang on a minute, that maybe what that guy over there's got, maybe that's better. Maybe the money isn't so important to me. Maybe the lifestyle isn't so important to me. Now, you might say, oh, that's capping. They're always going to care about the money and stuff. But it really isn't, because I know marriages that are broken up because the woman's like, do you know what? The money isn't important to me anymore. I don't give a damn about that. I don't give a damn about this fancy lifestyle. I want something else. And what might have been missing was, that kind of raw animalistic passion that's been absent, okay? So hypergamy is a bitch, right? And it's very hard to win. But I think one of the things that's illustrated in this conversation is the sort of complexity and the sometimes conflicting nature of what it is that women are looking for, okay?
Because you have to take time to get to know someone. You can like someone and then boom. Before you know it, they might move wrong. They might do something wrong.
Why are you not married to the guy that you're dating?
That small thing, you're doing that before we're even together. That means when we're together, you're going to do some shit.
Wait, Pearl, why are you only dating him? Why are you not married to him? Are you not Catholic?
All right, let's hypergamists, they do care about money. They are gold diggers to a degree,
To a degree,
right?
yes.
Right, to a degree.
Yeah.
But they'll dress it up and say some bullshit like ambition, or I want him with a good mindset, or I want him to be a go-getter. It all comes back to money at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's an innate,
which is fine.
It's an innate
Which is
quality
fine.
of a woman to be.
Okay.
I brick him.
Yeah, what about you?
No.
No, you would not do it. What about you? Would you go 50-50? Or no, would you want to pay a majority of the bills?
If it's temporary, I don't mind.
Okay, so not long term.
No, not long term. Not long term because
would you even be
eventually
okay with 50-50?
Okay, so this was the part where Myron, so the question you can hear, obviously, he's saying, would you be happy to pay the majority of the bills or at least go 50-50? Now, most of the girls kind of ended up saying no. Or if they did say yes, they said yes, but for a period of time. And then he says, well, that indicates the gold digger nature of women. Now then, some of the women on the panel objected to the use of the word gold digger. And one girl actually very articulately explains why, and I do get where she's coming from, but what he's sort of like, I suppose his underlying point is that, you know, this is an important component for most women, which is basically true, right? Again, you know, it's not about, you don't have to be a multi-billionaire or anything like that, but it's certainly a consideration, okay, particularly in modern dating. And we talk later as well about how modern dating has become more transactional, but let's have a look at this.
Depends. It's temporarily as well, because remember, in life as a woman, you have different moments where you're not able to contribute.
Okay.
So you have to be able to go up and down and adapt.
Temporarily, okay. What about you? Which is a no? No. Okay. So, you know, this perfectly proves what I said, because a lot of you guys were saying, like, I look for ambition, I look for that, blah, blah, blah. But when I asked you guys, would you be okay, right, with paying a majority of the bills, all of you said, no, I want the man to do that. Most of you don't even want to go 50-50. And I say this quote, a lot of girls get mad when I say it, but I say it all the time. All women are gold diggers, some are just better at hiding the shovel. And what I mean by that is they'll dress it up in terms like broke mindset, I don't want to be a Bob the Builder woman. I want to have ambition, whatever. The reality is, the bottom line is, it all comes down to their ability to create resources either now or in the near future. That's why you said temporary.
Ambition.
Yes.
So whether you guys want to admit it or not, women like to dress up finances in other terms to not come off as gold diggerish, but all women are gold diggers to a degree. Some are just better at hiding
Why
shit.
is that a problem, though?
I don't
No, but that's
agree.
not
Here's the
really
thing.
being a gold digger.
I never said it was a problem.
It's not a problem.
That's not really
The problem
being a
lies
gold
in
digger,
this.
because a woman can be using her money to invest.
The problem isn't that women are gold diggers. I understand your guys' nature. The problem is that you guys deceive and lie to make it seem as you are not gold diggers. That's like me saying,
no.
and let me give you, hold on. Let me
There's
give you the
levels,
functional
so-
equivalent. Let me give you the functional equivalent. That is the functional equivalent to me saying, I'm your friend. I'm okay with being friends with you. But then as soon as I get a chance, I try to sleep with you. That's annoying, isn't it? How many of you have had a guy that tried to sleep with you that was in a friend zone? Probably all the time, right?
No, not really. I have a lot of male friends.
I think my friends are scared.
Okay.
I have in a
They're
past.
probably scared. The point is that once they make that move, right, and they hide it, you lose respect for them because they hid their dick. They weren't straight up about it, right? So my thing is, women try to sit there and hide the fact that they are hypergamous. They do care about money. They are gold diggers to a degree.
To a degree,
right?
yes.
Right, to a degree.
Yeah.
But they'll
So I think the issue here, the issue here is really semantics, because gold digger, and we see the girl in the Yankees cap talking about this in a minute, and she makes a fair point. The term gold digger is very pejorative, right? It is going to be triggering. You can see why these girls are getting triggered by it. But the underlying point, and marriage causes divorce says here, they are gold diggers, but for good reason, i.e. survival, kids, etc. So it's sort of like, and well, let's see what this lady says here. But it's kind of like there is a bit of a spectrum to this, right? Because it's not like, when you say the word gold digger, you imagine this, I don't know, woman with like massive talon nails and like Botox, and you know, she's just after the latest Prada handbag or whatever, and it's all very transactional. And that obviously isn't all women. Of course, that is a minority of women. However, you know, is the financial aspect important to women? It is, and I would argue, people say, well, that's about provisioning, that's beta bucks, whatever. I would actually argue that in both short-term and long-term mating, it is a consideration, simply because the guy who has more resources is able to provide her with a better time, right? You know, she's able to have more, you know, fun dates and stuff like that. Now, in saying that, if you are somebody with money, that's not what you want to lead with, right? You don't want to go in and be like, hey, somebody was telling me yesterday about a guy in the club. He would he'd have his phone out and he'd go onto his bank statement so the girls behind him could read his bank statement or whatever, and you know how many millions he had in the bank and whatever, you know. It's not really the way you want to go, because you want them to like you for you, as you know, corny as that sounds, right? And Fresh was talking about this yesterday. It's like, yeah, okay, so what he's looking for is a girl. They have a good connection. They have a good vibe. She likes him for him, and then the money, the fact that maybe he can take her on a nice trip or they go to cool places or whatever. That's like the icing on the cake, but it's not the cake itself.
Dress it up and say some bullshit like ambition, or I want him with a good mindset, or I want him to be a go-getter. It all comes back to money at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's an innate,
which is fine.
It's an innate
which is
ability of a woman to be looked after.
A man should want that in a woman as well.
Hold on, no, we don't give a fuck about y'all money. That's a lie.
No,
anyway,
but a man should want a woman that is ambitious.
My problem is this:
that's ambitious, that's
women are not direct with what it is. They say dumb shit like that instead of saying, "I just want a motherfucker to take care of me." You guys don't want to admit it, but when I asked y'all, do you want to pay a majority of the bills? All of you said no. Most of y'all don't even want to do 50-50.
Myron, I'm curious. Do you think because we keep seeing women with all these useless jobs that pay a ton of money?
Yeah.
You know, so do you think in the future it's going to be like, do you think it's going to increase the amount of women who are paying the majority of the bills? Because I was looking at, I don't know if you saw that thing on Twitter the other day where it was like
women are earning men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you see that? What do you think is going to happen in the sexual marketplace?
I think it's going to get worse. What I think is that more women are going to be single and they're going to just recreationally have sex like they're doing now, but at a higher level. They're just going to continue to fuck.
It's going to be like men. We're changing roles.
And your boys are going to be the girls.
It's not going to change roles.
As women are becoming more masculine and stuff.
Women are so happy being alone these days because we don't need to settle. We don't need to settle.
But the problem
is they're proving my point right now.
No,
it's not going to happen.
Before we had to settle, we don't have to settle now.
No, but here's the problem. We have all these useless jobs that are overpaid, so we think we're more competent than we are. We're really not. Like, I'll give you an example. A diversity and inclusion officer is paid $15 to $17 an hour. Let's just be honest. A woman typically has that role. Come on. And a firefighter is paid the same amount of money. Which one's more useful?
Firefighter.
Yeah, but they're paid the same. So women think we're more important than we are.
You know what's going to happen though? What's going to happen is there's going to be a greater increase between the haves and the have-nots in the sexual marketplace. That's what's going to happen. So what's going to happen is the elite are going to be getting a larger slice of the pie, and everybody else is going to be getting less because women are not going to. You know, you can say
a second ago.
Exactly.
Said, I'm not settling.
You can say the roles are shifting and women are earning more, so therefore it's going to shift and women are going to be the higher rate. But women aren't going to respect a dude like ultimately long term who is earning less. Okay, so in the end, what it means is that it's going to be the guys who are earning more, the guys at the top level who are going to be getting a bigger slice of the pie. And that's it.
That's what I mean. So when they talk about cheating, like, do you understand what the world is going to look like in 10 years? 50% of women between the ages of 25 and 45 are going to be single and childless. Like
a sobering thought, but yeah, I mean, so I think the point I made there stands really. I think that because one of the girls on the couch was trying to say, okay, so things are now evening up, and if it is the case, you know, women are going to start earning more than men, then maybe it's going to get to a situation where women are going to be more in the dominant situation in society, and they're going to be the supporters, and then men are going to be the house husbands and stuff like that. I personally don't really see it going that way. I think what's going to happen is that just the bar for the kind of guys that these women are looking for is going to get ever higher. Okay. Now, again, this is nuance, because what I'm not saying, and what some of you buffoons are going to think, is that, oh, right, so you're saying it's all about money. No, it isn't, right? It is about these other things as well, particularly Edge or Riz or whatever you want to call it, okay? And if you want to get onto our course, The Edge, we can still get you in. Just email me, troy@realtroyfrancis.com. But yeah, you know, to say that to try to make out that it's not a consideration at all is naive, and it's stupid, because obviously it is, all right, for various reasons. Because women like to go on cool dates, they like to have fun, they like to have fun times, nice trips, blah blah blah, and ultimately they're looking for a guy who's going to be able to support and provision. Okay, so I think to say that it's not going to be a factor is untrue, and the fact that women are consistently now earning more and often out earning men is only going to push up the bar higher for where guys need to be. You know, sadly or not sadly, you know, we've all just got to level up. Basically, that's just how it is. Sorry, I had a super chat before, which we should address. So, yeah. So, DigiNomad, good to see you, man. Thank you for tuning in. Donated $2 and Canadian dollars, and he says, "What does the end game look like to you?" Welcome back. Well, man, I mean, that's a whole question. And actually, I've done videos on my other channel. Actually, I've done videos about this already. I mean, you know, look, I mean, if if you can find somebody that it's up to the individual, basically. It's what you want to do, right? If you find somebody that you are comfortable with, that you believe is somebody that you can make a long-term future with, that you think that you get more out of being with her than you do from being on your own, then being in a relationship is a perfectly fine end game. And the reality is, in the end, most people do end up in some kind of relationship. Now, of course, how long that lasts and if there's drama or not, that's another matter. But most people do end up gravitating towards some kind of relationship and some sort of family setup or some sort of domesticity, right? That's most people. Do you have to do that? No, I don't think so. There doesn't necessarily need to be an end game. We're all just kind of here randomly. We're all wandering around trying to figure out what to do. If you wanted to be a bachelor forever, you could do that as well. That's equally possible. But it's the end game. There is, if you mean what is the end game for me, well, obviously we're figuring that out at the moment. If you mean what is the end game in general, I think it's very much down to the individual and what you want to do. I think the important thing is to recognize there are choices, though. Like many people are just pushed along by society, and it's like, right, you got to get married by 30, and if you're not, you're a loser, and go and buy a house, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like you actually don't have to do any of that stuff, right? You really don't. So it absolutely down to the individual and the people that you meet in the relationships that you foster. I think is the best way I can think of answering that, really. All right, 17 people in here. Please do hit the like button. Max pause. I work as a delivery cyclist. Oh, for God's sake. Every time, Max, every time you have to bang on about this. And shop staff used to smile at me and offer me free food from the bakery section when I asked her out. However, she politely declined. Well, man, it's probably down to your vibe, man, to be honest. I don't know how you're asking these women out, how you're coming across. I mean, there's so many unanswered questions here. But, if you're not that guy, then yes, women are going to be friendly to you, but are they going to want to have sex with you? Probably not, right? So, the key thing is to try and learn from these videos and what we talk about on these channels and try and sort of like, okay, so how am I coming across? What's my vibe like? What's my riz like? And also trying to level up in these other areas as well, The OFT says, the one I struggle with is when women stare at you for a very long, but with no facial expression. It seems a lot of young women do this today. Not sure if just confidence or something else. Well, yeah, I mean, like I say, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? You can never really know. Is she interested? Is she not interested? The only way you can really know is by going up to her and having a conversation with her and then asking for her number and then asking her out on a date. And that there is no other real litmus test, okay? She might like you, she might not. In general, if you're in a social situation, if you're looking for somebody, you're in a social situation and a woman kind of checks you out, sure, it makes sense to go and talk to her, right? You might as well. But it doesn't mean that it's definitely... And there are people out there, there are dating coaches out there who recommend what they call, IOI game or just only operating when she checks you out. And the problem with that is, A, you're going to be leaving money on the table, let's say, because there's other women who didn't check you out. Maybe she didn't even see you, but she might have been attracted to you if you'd have spoken to her. And B, not all the women who do check you out are going to want to take it any further anyway. So I don't recommend that as a strategy. But hey, listen, I mean, if I'm single and I walk down the street and there's a girl and she looks at me and she smiles, yeah, sure, I'll take the shot. Why not? It'd be stupid not to, right? So DigiNomad repeated about what does the end game look like to you. So I've kind of answered that. I mean, it kind of depends really. Like as I say, it's down to what you want. I was never a huge relationship guy. I am, however, with somebody that, we have a very cool thing together, very special thing together. So, I think that you've got to be open to all outcomes in life, right? But I don't think that you should do something just because society tells you to do it. I think you've got to look at all of your different options and try and figure it out from there. I think that's the only way forward, really. God, there's loads and loads of things here. Lots of comments today. Thanks, guys. Please keep putting the comments in. This is really good. So SJ says, who's always been a supporter of the channel, so thank you, sir. He says, I credit you. The streets are cold. you've been out there for a minute versus most armchair QBs. The girls aren't in college, but act like it, especially on pods. They are bugging. Yeah, well, absolutely. Many of them are, yeah. The O1T says, Troy, what age would you say dating will start to affect men? I think he means age. What age? Sorry, he does. What age would you say dating will start to affect men dating young women in the West and will have to go somewhere else in the world? I mean, look, for a start, I know that everybody that everybody here wants to, men generally speaking, they are attracted obviously to younger women. You've got that fertility window, but we all know all of that. Having said that, I don't want to sit here and be this kind of purist who's just teaching middle-aged guys how to meet, young women. It's a little bit, I don't have an issue. I have clients and they're happy to date women who are, in their 30s or even in their later 30s or 40s and stuff like that. And maybe he's in his 50s or 60s, and I don't have a huge problem with that. If it's about dating people you find attractive. So there's a tendency in this space to fetishize age, and while I understand why that happens, it's not really, like this isn't a channel about strategies for older guys to date younger women. As such, having said that, the reality is really all the women I've dated have been younger than me. In answer to the question, when it starts to affect you, a lot of it is going to depend on how you look and how well you look after yourself, to be honest. I mean, if you look, I hit the big 50, guys, I'm afraid. It's nearly over now. Half a century of absolute nonsense has now elapsed in my life. And, I don't know how old you would think I look, but it's probably fair to say I look a little. I mean, certainly I've seen guys, on TV or in real life who are younger than me, and I would say that they look older than me. Okay, so I think I've held out pretty well. Okay, so that's good for me. That probably means I have a bit more latitude with this stuff. If you're 48 but you look like you're 55 or 57, it's going to be harder. That's the reality. So the way that you look is a big part of it. Then there's where you are geographic. So I suppose you're talking about in the West, right? Well, the other thing that you've got, of course, in general in the West is that it seems like age gap relationships are a bit frowned upon. They do happen, but yeah, it's a little bit sort of outside of the comfort zone. So it's a hard question to answer, man. To be honest, I would say your 30s, you're good. 30s are all good for most guys. When you get into your 40s, it can still be really good, but you have to make sure that you are taking good care of yourself and being young at heart as well. As cliched as that sounds, like just being being a kind of youthful sort of person as much as you can is really important as well, because it's also partly about the energy and the vibe that you bring. Okay, and if you're just acting like like a dad or something, then that's probably not going to play very well for the most part. But there's a lot of variables there. It also depends on the woman and the kind of thing she's into and so on. But I would say 30s you're good. As you get into your 40s, you want to make sure that you are in shape and you're looking sharp and not dressing like your granddad kind of thing. You know. It's over 9K said it depends, because when I was 35, I smashed a 22-year-old only because she liked my beard. Lol. Well, I don't think. 35 is not that old, really. So I think that's doable, definitely. Again, a lot of it is down to how you look, what she's into. She liked your beard, great, okay. Maybe the next girl wouldn't have done. So there's a lot of variables here. A lot of guys in the West, chicks in the West, are obsessed with guys with beards. I don't know. I can never grow one, really, man, to be honest. My beard's terrible. I could do the goatee thing, but that's about it. I think so Max says, I think if you do the work as an older guy, 35 plus, you can still get young women in the West. The only problem is if an attractive man, age 18, 25, walks in the room, you will lose. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Because again, there's different factors involved. What if you are an older guy? What if you're an older guy and you've also got money? All right. So you might get some 24-year-old dude who walks in, but he doesn't have your gravitas, he doesn't have your status, and he doesn't have your money. All right. Is that going to play a part, or is she just still going to go off with the 24-year-old? The other thing is, as we said in a show I did the other week when we were looking at these guys who don't have girlfriends, people like to argue that men are at their peak in their 20s. Okay. I personally don't think that's true. I think that guys often grow into their looks as they get into their 30s. Certainly, I think I did. I think I look better in my 30s than I did in my 20s. I'm genuinely, like, I'm not capping. I just think that I looked more, I was more sort of a bit more rugged looking, like a bit more masculine looking. I think it improved. I don't make any comment now, but about how I look now, but I think that it definitely improved as I got older. I think in my 20s I was too baby faced and not really, and you look at some of these dudes and he's like 23 and you're like, I mean, there's just not much sort of, there's not much masculine polarity there. Okay. So I wouldn't wholeheartedly agree with that you're always going to lose out just because the dude's younger. Okay. And also, they like you for different things as well. I mean, I was dating, a year ago, I was dating a girl who was in her 20s, kind of early 20s. And, of course, she had options with younger guys, 100%, right? But she really liked me. But the reason that she liked me, it's like sometimes you fancy, you want chocolate ice cream, and then other times you want creme brulee, right? It's like it's a different thing, It's like... it's not that one is necessarily better than the other. It's just a different sort of a flavor. So she liked me for certain things, whatever they were. One of them, I suppose, age, experience, these other elements. And then she would like the younger dude for some other things. So it kind of, it's not a zero-sum game, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's over 9K. Maybe is responding to this, maybe. But if the 30-plus man knows how to raise her up and make her feel something attractiveness of the young man is pretty much worthless. I would agree with that. I mean, so much of this is down to the energy that you bring in the vibe. Like, just because you're 22, it doesn't mean you're, because it's not all about looks, remember. That's the other thing. The O1, I can never fucking read this. It's the O1T. I know looking and smiling is a big green light from a woman, but some women may just stare at the man with no facial expression. It could just be a reminder, be you to remind her of someone, perhaps. Yeah, okay. Marriage causes divorce, says I could pass for 45 easily. Well, okay, thank you. I mean, 5 years, I suppose. I mean, that's not bad. 40. Oh, so Don DeMarco is 41, looking 31 over here. Troy, we have some vampire blood in us. And he says, yes, I don't come across as 41 for sure. Troy Francis, are you still going to travel and do programs abroad, or less of it now in an LTR? Well, I mean, that's up for discussion. I mean, I think the thing is that the traveling lifestyle and the doing live programs lifestyle is not the paradise you might think it is anyway, right? And after a period of time, it does start to get a little. I mean, I love to travel. I love to go to new places, but doing boot camps and things like that, is that really what I want to be doing? Going into my 50s, going into my 60s. I mean, it's kind of like, there's a bit of a shelf life for that kind of lifestyle, I think. So it's TBC, but the ambition was always to sort of scale it back anyway, to be honest, and to do a lot more stuff online, which is more scalable anyway. So, okay, the O1T. Look, I agree that older guys can still score. My only criticism is the red pill's idea that all older men have status of money. In fact, the majority of older men are just living paycheck to paycheck. True, I mean, I'm not saying it's not an unconditional thing. It's not like, yeah, if you're older, yeah, you're good to go. Yes, again, it's about what else are you bringing to the party? Okay, and I would say, as an older guy, she's probably going to expect you to, and again, it's not necessarily she's a gold digger, but she's probably going to expect you to have some sort of, net worth, some kind of like financial kind of success, and you don't have to be a billionaire, but you know, she's probably going to expect something of that kind. And also, you better be interesting, you better be in shape, you better be well dressed, you better be cool, you better not be like, you know, with a dad bod, like telling her jokes like her dad, right? You know, there's so many different aspects to this that makes that's going to make a difference. All right, so one guy who's 48 is going to be very different to another guy who's 48. Okay, it's very, very dependent on how you've looked after yourself and how you come across. I remember, Max, when I was young, I sometimes used to get turned on by older women. I guess some women have a thing for older guys too. Well, that's true. There are definitely women who just like older guys, and I wouldn't say it's a majority, but I think it's a decent-sized minority. I think like older guys, and the other thing you have to remember is that it is also somewhat culturally conditioned as well. Okay, so what is the case here in London is going to be very different in, say, Moscow or Bogota or Argentina or whatever, right? Okay, it is very much it's a cultural thing as much as anything else. Right, let's have another look at this video anyway, because I want to move on now.
I mean, think about it. If you're married, there's going to be so many women throwing themselves at your husband.
These emotional cases, because that's where the problem lies, isn't it? It's defining it.
Domestic violence by far. Basically.
They don't give him a look. They don't even look at him. They don't even give him a look.
For example, you go to a pizza spot, right? Your favorite pizza spot. You don't know that they had to get the cheese imported.
There was a whole thing they talked. There was a whole thing that they were talking about, sort of abuse and coercive control and stuff like that, which is not really the subject matter for my channel. So I'm going to skip through that. But as you can imagine, it was pretty heated. There was differing opinions on both sides. I want to get more to the dating stuff. We started talking a bit about dating when it got later on in the stream.
Imported from Italy. You don't know that they had to get the dough at a certain temperature to make it taste a certain way. You don't know that they imported the sauce from a certain place to have a distinct taste. You don't know that the oven that they got was thousands upon thousands of dollars to fry it just right, to cook it just right. You just enjoy the end product, but you don't know the process that it took to create that pizza. When you see an attractive man...
So, yeah, so then we got into this, or he got into this discussion around the fact that men really need, and this is actually relevant to what we were just saying, that men really need to work in order to get to the level where they're seen as a viable sexual option, for the most part. I mean, look, there are guys, yes, they're just naturally amazing looking, and say he's really, really good looking, and he's bought into money, and he's tall, and he's jacked, or whatever, right, naturally, okay, fine. He has to do less. But for the most part, most people, most guys have to work really hard in order to get to a level which is, you know, going to allow them to gain traction in the dating marketplace. And look, that's okay, right? It's not the end of the world. It's just something we all have to be aware of and we have to work towards, all right? But he's making this analogy about cooking a pizza. You know, the woman just accepts the pizza as it is. She doesn't think about all the ingredients that went into it, or the time it took, or the oven, or all this kind of stuff.
When you see an attractive man, that man has spent a lot of the times years, if not decades, to create that package that you're currently enjoying. But you don't understand what goes into it because women don't have to build themselves up at all. No. You guys just exist. 18 years old, invited on a fucking yacht. But who paid for the yacht?
That sounds like something Andy Tate said. Quote him.
You pay for yachts?
So it's
you
like,
pay for yachts? And had sex with A-list
sexual access.
Myron, what was that thing you reached?
Cool, though. If you got to leave, you got to leave. I totally understand it.
I find it difficult.
But you're not refuting any of his points.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that is. I'm talking to you. Somebody that I don't necessarily agree with. That's down to you.
You're an objective failure.
Let me tell you.
Which makes the man even rarer. Which is
I'm not loose.
But then you're not getting with any guy. But then
he made some very rash decisions. Like he did something really stupid at one point. Like we're supposed to be.
Okay, right. So
bad decisions.
No, because I'm like you. I'm very picky, and I know what I want.
Okay.
There's no more. You're
Listen,
31.
I can.
You're 31, bro.
I can actually. It's so funny.
You're 31. Like, yo, we need to bring one back.
You can't say that to her.
It's the truth. This is what. Yo, hold on. Stop.
She's choosing to be single.
Stop. Shut the fuck up. Everybody shut up for 2 seconds. Because this is crazy. What if I said, yo, I play video games every day. I'm 300 pounds. I made $10,000 last year. I want a bad bitch. What would you guys say to me?
There's niggas that are doing that still.
Okay, but hold on.
She had one.
Hold on, but am I delusional? Am I a dumbass for thinking that? I am. That's delusional because I don't qualify for what I want. I'm a brokey. I'm fat. I'm a loser. And here's the thing. Reality is going to let me know ain't no bad bitch is going to want me. Okay? I got to get out there and become that guy to be attractive. Why is that women think I'm not going to change? I'm going to get older. I'm going to wait it out. And I still want a top tier guy to pick me. It's not happening, bro.
So, I mean, you know, this is an interesting point, isn't it? And when you think about it, really, I mean, the men's self-improvement space, we're talking about this in this show today, right? The need to do self-improvement, the need to work on yourself, the need to improve, right? To level up in all these different areas, which you might say money, fashion, what was it? Money, muscles, game, and frame, for example, right? We need to level up in all these different areas. Now, younger women often have the luxury of not having to do that, okay? Because, you know, if you're attractive and you'll kind of present yourself well. Now, they would argue, and I think they were kind of arguing on this, well, we've got to put our makeup on and we've got to, you know, dress nicely and we have to go to the gym and stuff. Well, okay, fine. But, I mean, still, you know, the reality is a relatively attractive young-ish woman, if she goes to a nightclub, she's going to find guys who are interested. Okay, that's not going to be the case for every guy. Okay, so this burden of performance is much more on men, that they really have to build themselves up and they have to work on all these different aspects of themselves. Okay, so, you know, it is what it is. And he's making this point here. And I think with the best one in the world, I don't think that's quite the case in the female space. I mean, there is, of course, female self-improvement content out there, but I don't see it as being such a groundswell of it as there is for men, you know, and the stuff that is out there, it tends to be quite woo-woo and just like, yeah, man, you know, take time for yourself and meditate and go for walks and things like that. And it's less about, right, I really need to level up in all these areas if I'm going to have any chance of really engaging in a normal life.
It's not happening.
Well,
if you're single at 31, chances are you're going to stay single past 31.
Listen,
and this is statistically proven too.
That's okay.
No,
that's
Myron,
okay.
Myron,
Listen,
they become side chicks at 35.
Yeah, like, bro, this crazy.
Don't worry.
It's crazy.
My reality, you've never met a woman like me. My reality is quite different.
I've
I'll
met
tell you
a
that
woman
much.
Hey.
You wish,
I meet them all
girl.
the time.
You really wish. That's why
I
you only
really
know
do.
one thing.
I really do.
That's why I'm the person. I'm the only girl that comes here as often as I
will
do.
say
And
you are for as crazy as you are
Listen,
on time.
Exactly, and it's not even that I'm on time. And I'll tell you something. You guys
Punctuality is masculine trait.
Listen. As much as you're talking and saying all of this, you're the person that says the reason why you come here is because you don't complain. You come. You do. I don't complain. Me and you can have all.
You do have. I'm not saying you have no.
Listen.
I'm not saying you have no positive qualities. I could list them right now. You're.
You don't even know me, but I'm just telling you. You've seen two sides.
I mean, you could, you know, I mean, you could just, well, yeah, man, you can imagine like 4 or 5 hours of this. It was pretty intense.
I've known you for like a year. Okay,
bro.
Okay.
My middle name.
Look, man.
So,
like, I know your name is Hannah Pearl Davies. What's mine? What's my surname even?
See, that's a masculine trait. Interjecting, not being agreeable.
We all did it, including your best friend Pearl.
But you the most by far.
Not really.
You and this other girl right here.
Yo, we're going in circles, man, because you know what I'm saying.
I haven't spoke the whole night, so
go on, Moroccan.
You could say something. What do you want to say?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so this is the bit that I wanted to build up to, really, and hopefully we're going to get on tomorrow so we can ask her about this in more detail. But yeah, Sakina now talks about her relationship status.
The way say that, man.
Moroccan, why are you single?
We've given you opportunities to talk, and you just said, no, I don't want to say anything.
I am newly single, and I have been single for 3 months, and I chose to leave the man. I was going to get married. He was perfect on paper, but I walked away.
Why?
Stupid.
Because I...
Yeah, so, you know, he was perfect on paper. She chose to walk away.
And this is why, this is what I'm trying to say. Arranged marriages are a thing because women make bad decisions.
No, because I'm like you. I'm very picky and I know what I want. And it's like...
Okay, that's another thing. Modern woman, she's very picky. All right? That's something else to pay attention to.
Like, although someone's maybe perfect for me on paper and he treats me like a princess and things like that, there's things that I need. And if that person doesn't have it...
You're 29.
Yes,
a lot of women value their happiness.
Can you tell us what the things were? I mean, I know it's like personal, but can you be a bit specific, just out of interest?
Yeah, it's like the person was a people pleaser.
What?
Like not just with me, but with like the family, his friends. It was like the people around him. He was just.
So he's a nice guy.
He's a really nice guy.
Okay, so that was quite funny, right? Because basically, it's like, okay, so there's this guy. I think she's already said. I mean, he was quite well off. He was, in a good position in life and stuff like that. He was really nice. He was like blah blah blah. And then you ask her, okay, so what specifically were the traits that made you dump him? And she's like, well, he was a people pleaser, right? He was a people pleaser. He was really nice to the people around him. Okay, so he was a nice guy. So she basically, you got this guy who was perfect on paper, and then she's kicked him to the curb. And the first thing she says to explain that is, well, he was too nice. He didn't have boundaries. Okay. Very, very interesting. Now, she does then go and qualify and talk about some other stuff that happened, but it's kind of interesting. That was the first thing that she brought up.
This is fucking crazy. I have a question for you guys. Can I ask a question?
I was very happy with him. I did not leave him for that reason.
But so what's the reason?
He made some very rash decisions. Like he did something really stupid at one point. Like we're supposed to be getting engaged and married this year, and he suddenly goes and invests like so much money into some random business just because his friends convinced him to. I was not okay with that.
I want that for the ring instead.
Well, shouldn't you be supportive of his dreams?
Hold on. Did you talk to your parents about this, or your brother or some shit?
Yeah, my family met him. Yeah.
And what did they tell you when you said, "I'm going to leave"? Was he Arab himself?
He was Pakistani. My brother is in support of me leaving him. But my mum is like kind of like, oh my God, you're 29, you need to get married.
No, your mom sees what it is.
She's panicking, but my brother's like, no, because she knows the truth. Someone better.
Well, your brother knows his friend.
And my brother's 17, and he.
What the? You don't know
He's
shit.
a kid.
Yeah, but he's very
His balls haven't
He's
even
a
dropped
kid.
yet. He don't know shit.
You're 30 years old,
nigga.
Bro.
Okay, so just to summarize that bit, obviously, she asked for some advice from the family. Her mum was like, no, you should marry this guy. The brother was in support of her leaving. But the brother, it turns out, is 17. So the brother's very young, which is why they're laughing, because it's like, well, Jesus, this guy's a kid. But that's... So, the first thing is it's interesting. Her mother was, wanted them to stay together. I'm assuming that the household, quite traditional, whatever, Moroccan. Okay, fine. But she chose to leave the guy. And it seems like the decision to leave the guy was because she said at the beginning, on paper, he was great. And this is the really important takeaway for this. On paper, he was great, but there was something that was kind of missing. And then when we tried to, I asked her specifically, okay, so what was it? What are the things? The first thing she mentions is, well, he was a people pleaser. Okay. Translation, he was a bit of a nice guy. He was a bit of a pushover. All right. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that really interesting? Okay. So this dude had money. This dude had some status. This dude was going to give her a great life. Then she brings in the thing about the business deal. Okay, so then they were meant to get married. He put some money into a business deal. Now, I can't really comment on that because I don't know what the deal was. I don't know how rash it was. She was saying it's a rash decision. Who knows, right? But is it possible that that business deal could have paid off and it could have worked really well and it could have brought them a better future? I don't know. I mean, but arguably maybe, right? So... I guess it depends on how it's communicated, right? I mean, I suppose if he just randomly, maybe his mistake was he should have sat down with her and just said, listen, I really want to do this. I think this could be great for us. And so I'm going to do it. And we can put the wedding back by a year, but are you on board? Maybe he should have had that conversation and he didn't. I don't know. But the reality is that she mentioned that second. The first thing she mentioned was being a people pleaser. And ironically, then describing the business thing, it sounds like he's not a people pleaser because he just went ahead and did it. So that's slightly odd. But again, I think the most telling thing to me about this was it seemed to be the emotional side of it that came out first. And then she starts to come out with the more logical reasons, like, oh, well, he was bad with money or he did this rash thing.
Hold on. She went off a teenager.
You let a kid tell you what to
even
do.
drink alcohol.
Yeah.
She listened to a minor about her
Committing
life.
drive. Oh shit, I'm gonna crash the car. Yo.
Shout out to my brother.
That's crazy.
What the fuck?
No, I know what I'm doing.
That nigga being off right now and you over here listening to him. What the fuck?
I know what I'm doing. He wasn't my husband. I know what
Okay, well, that's interesting. He wasn't my husband, okay? And I was watching a video earlier before I came in, actually, and they were talking about, like, oh, I'm looking for husband energy and stuff like that. And it's sort of like, again, it's very much sort of like founded in emotion, isn't it? It's very much like, okay, so is this... Because when you think about it, like Myron just mentioned arranged marriages, all right? And I'm not suggesting that's a good thing. I wouldn't want to be in one myself, but it's sort of like now it's very much based on this emotion. He wasn't my husband. Well, what does that really mean? It means that on a feelings level, she didn't consider him to be that guy, all right? And the first reason she identified was he's a people pleaser, all right? So emotionally, somewhere she wasn't getting the feels that she needed in order to continue with this with him, okay? And again, this is really important for you guys to take notice of, because when we talk about women being led by emotion primarily, and it's not a logical thing, it's not a logical decision, this is exactly what we're talking about. Because if it was a logical decision, she'd probably still be with him, because it seems like, he was good on paper, as they used to say on Love Island. So interesting stuff, very useful stuff.
I'm doing.
Yo. And she values her happiness.
I value myself so much. I have so much respect for myself. I bring so much to the table.
How long have you been together?
And I will meet my husband.
How long have you been together?
He wasn't that person.
How long have you been together?
I knew you were going to dump him. I just want you to know the past year I knew you were going to dump him.
Really?
Yeah, based on how you spoke about him, I knew. I already knew. Yeah, because...
We don't miss.
Yeah, it was because you valued... I could tell you liked his resources more than him by the way you spoke about him.
All right, so that's really, really interesting. So Pearl comes in with, drops the bombshell there as well. And obviously, we talk about female intuition and stuff, but, I think whatever if you're a Pearl fan or not, she's clearly very perceptive. She's spoken to a lot of women. Her gut feeling was that basically Sakina wasn't that into the dude, okay? And that's really fascinating, isn't it? And it turned out to probably be true. And she says, I felt that you liked his resources more than you liked actually him, okay? And this is the big thing, guys. And this is why you make this mistake of thinking, right, so it's all about the money. It's all about like, oh, if I'm just this super high value dude and I've got a Lambo and I'm jacked or whatever, then it's going to be no problem. It's going to be plain sailing. But it isn't, because then what you're missing, or what you're not perhaps taking into account, is the emotional component. How do you make her feel? And to me, it sounds like this guy was not making her feel the things that made her want to stay in that relationship, okay? She wasn't feeling, I would imagine, the excitement, the drama, etc., okay?
Damn.
I could tell he was like a rich...
So you are a gold digger.
Like, if I'm guessing,
so you are.
Well, you left him. You got a good heart then.
I could tell. No, sorry. That sounded really harsh. I didn't mean it to be, but
yeah,
it sounded like when I heard you talk about him, I guessed rich dork.
Okay, so there you go, rich dork. Now again, I get guys coming into the comments section on this channel and also on my other channel or Twitter or whatever, and they're like, "Oh yeah, bro, it's all about money. Just have money and you're fine. No problem." But it isn't, is it? Because as Pearl says, right, what about, then you've got these dudes who they've got money, but they're also a bit of a dork. They don't have the riz, they don't have the vibe, etc., etc. And regrettably, you may get a foot in the door, you may even get into a bit of a relationship, but are you really setting a world on fire? You're not, okay? So this is why money is not the be-all and end-all. I'm not saying it's not helpful. I'm not saying it's not a good thing to have, but it's not everything, okay? Because remember, hypergamy, if you want to call it that, is a many-splendid thing. It's not just this simple, like, right, he's got money, okay, right, I'm going to have sex with him and be with him for the rest of my life, okay? It's not as simple as that. It's not as linear as that.
That's what I guess.
You know what it is? It wasn't even that.
I don't know. Maybe I'm off. So I don't know. But that was just based on how you talked about him.
It was more so like he just lacked boundaries.
Lacked boundaries. Okay, well, that's interesting.
That's very...
Which is, as they say in a minute, lacking frame.
Important for me.
But the thing is, boundaries...
Yeah, you need a guy to tell you to shut up.
Boundaries...
Yo, look, put the fuck camera on me, man. That's why I tell you motherfuckers, bro. Women deserve less booking stores right now. Yeah. I tell you guys this shit all the time. They don't know what the fuck they want. You're a nice guy. Be quiet. You're a nice guy. You make money. You're successful. Oh, I'm going to give you the world. All this other shit. You go ahead and you invest to make more money for the relationship, by the way. And girls get mad. Like, that got to be used by engagement. And they break up with you. Bro, this is why I tell y'all, man. Be fucking... Have the frame, man. Have the frame.
Yes. So... Absolutely. I mean, frame, boundaries, kind of synonymous, really. It seems like he didn't have. It seems like on some level the masculine feminine polarity between them wasn't where it should be. Okay, it sounds like he was a little bit. He just wasn't pushing her buttons in the right way. Okay, and again, on paper, good guy, got money, blah blah blah, resources. Pearl talks about resources, but on a visceral level, he's not setting the world on fire, and that is a problem. Okay. Now, then some other shit happened. So there's this thing with the business deal, which we don't really know very much about. So, whatever that happened, that was maybe a final nail in the coffin. But ultimately, I don't think that was the key thing. It was this other thing. It was this emotional side of it. And when I say emotion, I'm talking really about passion. I'm talking about that white hot, that kind of the butterflies, the feels, whatever you want to call it, right? It seems like there was something lacking there, and that's the important thing. And I mean, Myron's criticism is like, well, look, you had a good guy. You had a guy that many women would probably want to be with, and you let him go because of emotion rather than making it as a logical decision. Okay, this is how the world is, gents. Okay, this is why, if you're sitting there grinding, thinking, well, I'm going to make a fortune from tech or a fortune in crypto or whatever, and then all the girls are going to flock to me. It's not necessarily like that. You've got to work on the other stuff as well.
This example of a guy that's
boundary, but here's the thing.
He had no frame, and that's why she left him.
Boundaries are for guys. This is what I learned. Boundaries are for guys you don't really like.
What do you even mean by he didn't have boundaries?
No. He didn't have rules on her.
Yeah, no.
She did whatever she wanted.
So
is that how you mean? Is that how you mean it?
No. So he would never ever express he would never say, these are the rules. I don't want you doing this. I don't.
Yes.
So when I would
no
go
frame.
Okay, right. So there you go. Very important. Okay, so he wasn't. And again, it's a bit politically incorrect or whatever, but basically, she's kind of saying he wasn't laying down the law. Okay, he wasn't. She's talking about boundaries. We're talking about frame. We're talking about whatever. Right? There's different terms to sort of describe this thing, but what the thing is was he the one who was wearing the trousers or not? And it sounds like he kind of wasn't. She referred to him before as a people pleaser. Okay, again, this is not about his earning potential. I don't know. Let's assume this guy, I think she says later, I think he was good looking. So let's assume he was decent looking. Let's assume he was in decent shape. He had money. On paper, he's ticking off everything that we think that we need, right? But he didn't have the frame. And ultimately, that led to the demise of the relationship.
When I would go and do something, he would hold it against me.
Fuck it, the red pills are dropping. The red pills are dropping from the sky, man.
He would bottle it up. He would bottle it up, and then one day, what he would do is he would try and get revenge on me. So, for example,
passive aggressive.
Yeah, passive aggressive. So, for
Feminine
example, I went to a place called Tramp here in London.
Oh my God,
red flag.
You can't make this up. You can't make this up.
Hold on a second. For dinner, I went there for dinner. I did not go to party. I went with my friend for dinner, and I
went to the trap house to get medicine.
He knew I was out. I was speaking to him the whole night. I even sent him pictures of my lobster pasta, and he was like, oh yeah, enjoy yourself, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, few weeks later, I didn't say that I went to
Who paid for that dinner?
My friend was on the phone to me. And
Who paid for the dinner?
Sorry?
Who paid for that dinner?
I paid for myself. My friend paid for herself.
You went just with you and your girlfriend?
Me and my girl, yeah. And he knew.
Yeah, so what was the issue?
He knows that friend because she always drops me home, and he knows I'm okay with her.
So why did it become an issue then?
So, because I didn't say that I was specifically at Tramp, so he had a problem with that.
Tramp, by the way, is I think it's in Jermyn Street. It's just like a nightclub in London. I mean, the fact that it's called Tramp maybe makes it sound slightly kind of worse. I mean, it's kind of a pretty upscale venue. I didn't know you could just go there for dinner, but whatever. I mean, I don't think. In itself, I mean, if anybody's thinking, oh, she went to a place called Tramp, that sounds sleazy. I don't think in itself, if what she's saying is correct, she just went there and had dinner, that is a massive cause for concern, really. She was there with a girlfriend, fine, whatever. I don't think it's a huge, it should be a huge deal breaker or anything really for him to get stressed about. But that's sort of beside the point, as we'll see in a second.
For some reason, he's like, why didn't you say you was in Tramp? A week later, he decided to go to Paris randomly with his friends, didn't tell me, acted like he was in a country. And I'm like, things like that, you're just playing games. I don't mess with things like that. Be a man and say it with your chest in the start. Tell me I'm not okay with you going to these places.
Either stay the same or get worse.
Don't come to me 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, and then suddenly try and, have revenge on me. I don't play like that.
All right. So that's really interesting, isn't it? Because what he then did and she's assuming that it's to do with the fact that she went to Tramp, and let's take that at face value, and let's assume she's right. So what he then did was he actually pulled what you might say was more of an alpha card. So he's like, well, all right, well, sod you. I'm just going to go to Paris with my friends then, because you did this. So now I'm going to exercise my own freedom. I'm going to fly off and, not tell you and whatever. Okay. But it backfired because probably it was incongruent with his nature generally. Okay. So that, I would guess, is the first thing. And secondly, she knew that he was doing it as a sort of passive-aggressive revenge for the fact that she'd been to a place that he wasn't comfortable with her going. All right? So it's not so much that him go to Paris or whatever, it's the fact that she's then interpreted this as kind of a weakness, right? It's like, oh, so he couldn't even man up and just sit down and have the conversation with me. Instead, what he's done is he's bottled it up, and then he's flown to Paris to try to get revenge in this kind of passive-aggressive way. And that's why I said passive-aggressive feminine trait, okay? And rather than it kind of, maybe he thought, listen, I'm going to do this, like, I'm going to be the Chad now, I'm going to be the devil may care, I'm just going to fly off and fuck it, and, whatever. But actually it backfired, all right? And probably the markers were set in place before this even happened, okay? Because for a start, like I said, it was probably incongruent with his character. And secondly, she probably started to lose respect for him at this point already, because she's already saying he's a people pleaser. And then he does this thing, and she's just like, actually, that was a bit pathetic, because why didn't he just sit down and man up and have the conversation with me? Okay, he didn't. She talks about rules, right? He didn't have the rules with her, all right? Interesting, all right? Interesting stuff.
So I broke up with him.
AKA, you don't like him. Period.
I don't get it. It was revenge to go to Paris.
So Fresh is probably right. You didn't like him, period. Okay? I mean, basically, cut the crap. She wasn't that into him. And then a couple of things happened, and that pushed her to the decision that she finally made. But when you say like, another way of saying it is she didn't, I think, respect him at the end. Okay? And that's the problem. Why didn't she respect him? Because she wasn't getting the feels that she needed, right?
Paris?
No, don't disrespect me like that.
This is actually a really good learning moment for the audience out there. This is an example of having money but still being a bitch, and
precisely.
You lose your girl. She only tolerated him because he had money.
Facts.
That's the only reason she tolerated him.
That's not true. That's not true. I cared about him, and he was an amazing person, and we were going to get married this year. Unfortunately, too many things.
If he didn't have the
and I do believe that, by the way. I'm sure she's telling the truth about that. It's somewhere along the line, he dropped the ball, okay? And it might be this business deal thing. I suspect it was probably before that. I think the issue really was with the people pleasing. I think that she probably would have been like, because again, hypergamy, like women's decision making on this stuff, it's like, okay, well, maybe he's not perfect here, but he's got these other qualities. So, okay, right, fine. I'll take the overall package. Okay, maybe she would have married him, and then just this couple of things happened, and she was like, all right, fuck that. It'd be interesting to know the precise moment when that decision happened. But I do believe she, again, guys are very sort of like, black and white about this. It's like, oh, and Myron kind of says this. He had money, and that's why you're with him. Well, no, probably there was fondness there as well. Probably there was affection. Probably she was fucking into him at the beginning, right? But somewhere along the line, she lost that he dropped the ball, all right, or at least I put it like that. It sounds like I'm blaming men. I mean, this just illustrates how difficult the terrain is to navigate for men, right? He did something, or he did some things that caused her to be less attracted to him, and as a result, he ended up losing the girl. Okay, I could say, well, he dropped the ball, or you could just say, well, look, actually, these rules are very opaque, and we're not taught them in school. Like, a lot of us don't know. A lot of this stuff's very counterintuitive. But anyway, at some point along the way, the ball was dropped, and she lost the respect, she lost the feels, and there you go.
money, you wouldn't have been with him. You wouldn't have given him a chance.
Too many things kept coming up, and I was like, I can't marry
If he
this
didn't have the
person.
money, you wouldn't have let it last as long as it did, bro. Like, come on, man.
But it is an important learning. It is an important learning moment.
It is a
because-
learning moment.
Of course. Of course.
No, just quickly. It's an important
It's for
learning
guys
moment
out there to learn.
because guys, there are guys out there. Some guys think it's all about looks, right? But there's a big contingent of guys who think it's all about money.
Yes.
It's like if you've got money, that's it, you're sorted. And it's not true. It's
not true.
It's
That's
not
what
true
I've been
because
saying.
you need the
She'll tolerate you, and then if you spend that money for the engagement, she'll break up with you.
But you've got to have the riz. You've got to have the edge.
You gotta have everything.
You've got to have everything. Exactly.
Listen,
And notice she was following her path, not his path.
Yes.
You know what? The money that was supposed to be on the wedding, no, you know what? Fuck that. We're putting it toward our future for an investment. She said, you know what? Fuck that. It should be towards the wedding.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it was your path, not his path.
I don't want to be an asshole, but I've said this in my book. Most women want to get married, but they don't want to be wives.
Yeah.
No, how about you say that's showing me that he is perhaps not making mature decisions and being quite reckless and maybe putting my life at risk.
Hold on.
He's putting my life at risk.
Stop. With all due respect, the guy had money when you met him, right?
Yeah.
So who the fuck are you to tell him how to invest?
Exactly. What
exactly?
You know?
Like, bro, get out of here, man.
What do you know?
At a time where we
you're
are
with a nigga that
about
has
to get
money.
married, there is a huge difference. I've spoken to guys who also agreed with me. They were like, it's the wrong timing.
Because here's the thing.
I don't know about this really. I can't really comment on this because I don't think we know enough about what the deal was and how he presented it to her or anything else. I mean, so I think we would need to sort of ask her for a bit more if she, she's willing to talk about it, ask her for a bit more detail on this stuff because it's kind of like, I'm not entirely sure the exact circumstances here. From her point of view, it's a bit like, well, look, we'd said we were going to do this thing and then suddenly he pulls the plug and he goes and puts this money off in a business deal. But then on the other hand, there is this argument that they're making, which is like, but like, that could have been great for you because maybe he would have made a load more money and then you guys would have been even better set up for the future. So it's kind of difficult without knowing a bit more detail, really, to figure that one out.
They're lying.
Dudes that got money? Yo, no. Dudes that got money, a lot of the times, like even the biggest simps will have some money somewhere else that you don't fucking know about. He might have had some money somewhere else. Maybe he had maybe some crypto shit, whatever.
You don't know.
If he made an investment like that and he made the money in the first place, trust me, he probably knew what he was doing. And I find it amazing how he has more money than you, more competent than you, more successful than you, but you're trying to dictate how we invest the money that he worked for and say, that was the good decision. When the reality is women are 80% of the consumer base and you guys control 3/4 of debt. Y'all don't know how to spend no fucking money. Y'all are retards with money. No offense. Was the truth, objectively speaking. I got the numbers to show me.
I can agree with that one.
Lobster pasta.
Don't spend my
But you
money
over here
well.
trying to tell a rich nigga how to invest his money, and you mad because he didn't spend it on a fucking wedding.
Lobster pasta.
At Trump as well. Come on.
Trump.
Yo, I'm gonna keep it 1,000. I'm gonna keep it
not?
1,000. You might want to get back with him, man.
He wants me back, and
If he's watching now, have you got?
No. What I will say is, when we broke up, he was distraught, and I did say to him, if it's meant to be, we will actually find our way back.
You're controlling. That's your problem. That's your. No offense. I'm not.
I
saying
wouldn't
I'm
go
perfect
back to
either,
him. You're
but
not going to respect him.
You can't.
And that's worse. You
You
might end up
can't.
abusing
You're never
him.
gonna like guys you
Because
can
I know he's a
control.
good guy
You're
and he
never
has
gonna like
amazing
them.
qualities.
The problem
Like,
is,
I'm not blind.
You know
to
what it
that.
is?
Yeah.
He can't tell her no. So the problem is she's
Yeah,
leading
that's true.
the whole interaction.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't get her way, oh, you know what? Fuck this guy.
And here's the other thing too. Like
Yeah.
if you
I mean, again, that's an expression of the boundaries side of things, isn't it? Or being the one in charge or laying the rules or whatever.
if you knew breaking up with him, he would be like, "Fuck this bitch. I'm blocking her. I'm never talking to her again." You wouldn't have left him. You know, you're leaving him because you're like, "Yo, I could probably do better." Because like right now you're like, okay,
She's leaving the door open.
You know what she did? This is what she did.
Yeah.
She basically left the casino up, and she was like, you know what? I could make a little more. Okay, I'm going back in, and she went back in the casino, but she don't realize the casino's going to close in about an hour.
I have a question.
No, because I had better before him, and I chose him because I wanted.
Wait, you said
something
before.
different.
What also was going on
I
before?
had so many options before
Hold on.
and I didn't choose
Keyword
those
before.
people.
What happened before though?
What do you mean?
Like what you said before. That's a key word.
Like before I met him,
The other guys?
there was
No, you were younger back
many
then.
guys
You
to
were
choose
younger.
from.
Yeah, but you were younger.
Like
Oh.
what? 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Are
Like,
you saying like guys with money or something like this?
I had many options, and I chose him because he was loyal, he was honest, he had all these amazing qualities. But it was when he started
29.
behaving like this and switching up and doing things like this, I was like, I can't marry this guy. This is
You know what
scary.
Yeah, I want to tell you something I noticed. Whenever women use the traits that you just said, like loyal, on like the stuff that you just said, they always dump them. Like I've just noticed that the past.
But the
couple of
intention was
years.
not to dump him. The
You
intention
sound
was
like
to
you
marry
but it
him.
doesn't.
You
It doesn't.
sound
It
like you
doesn't.
pity him.
It doesn't.
You
It
sound like
doesn't.
you pity
It doesn't. It doesn't matter what your intention. Like men don't care about your intentions.
that's it.
They don't care. They look at what you do.
Yeah, I mean, very perceptive point from Pearl there. I mean, it's sort of like, unfortunately, the traits that she mentions are laudable traits, but they're not particularly sexy, are they? Right.
And so if you're listing like he's loyal, he's honest, he's this, men are going to hear that and say, oh well, if I'm loyal and honest and this to her, then she's gonna dump me too.
I mean, they're kind of not with all due respect, they're kind of anti-seductive qualities in a sense. Because if you think about the archetypal bad boy that women supposedly want, right? The James Bond, the Daniel Craig, is he loyal? Is he nurturing? Is he all of those things?
I chose him
That's
because
kind of
he
the
didn't
opposite.
have those things.
Right,
Okay.
but what gives you the tingles?
Was there a
What
cheater
gives-
before?
Troy.
I feel like there. I feel like there was a cheater before him.
You know what's funny?
I have a feeling.
Troy.
No, actually, never been with a cheater. Never even been with that many
Douchebag.
guys.
Real quick. Troy,
No one
she had fun with the guys that were fun, exciting, bad boys.
Yeah.
And so you know what? I'm getting older.
Yeah,
Time to
so
settle
now-
down. I'm gonna find a guy's loyal. They gotta take care of me and is somewhat nice to me.
Yeah.
So she chose this guy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a nice guy with money doesn't mean frame. So by
Exactly,
default,
yeah.
she stayed in the game for a little bit. Oh, you know what? He's choosing money and
Have a
business
last
over me.
hurrah. Have a last
I'm
hurrah.
out. I'm out.
We're happier with a guy that cheats than a guy that's safe.
I don't know.
No,
And that's and I know maybe you can say no, and I get it. I used to say no, that's not true. But it's I just look at what we do.
I think it's more in the
subconsciously,
middle,
is it?
I feel like it's just the way someone
it's just-
behaves. Like I want someone who's like
I've just
you said, needs to be respected.
Yes, he respects himself.
Women
And he
don't
doesn't- he
respect.
doesn't have
Women don't
boundaries.
respect loyal men. They don't.
Yeah.
Because when I'm loyal to you, especially sexually, what that basically says is I can only get sex from you, and therefore I am victim to whatever you want. Just like.
Yeah, and also your lower value, right? Because if you're presenting as this guy who's only got one option on the planet, then that in itself would suggest that you're lower value, okay? Which is why there's always this thing, you should always be prepared to walk away. It's not that you should be cheating. It's not that you should be talking to other people necessarily, but you should always be like, look, the reality is, if I wanted to, there would be other options out there to exercise, or at least you want to give that impression, right? Because otherwise, what he's saying here is that, like, she's going to be like, okay, right, so I'm the only person on earth who wants to deal with him, and that in itself is not attractive to her.
The guy that was sexist, you need to know that you could be replaced at any time. That's the only thing women respect.
So would you cheat on your spouse then?
Yes, 100%.
I don't know. You know what?
The fuck?
You know.
Why am I? Yo, you think I'm gonna be like rise up and do all this shit to fuck one bitch? Are y'all
No.
crazy?
And I want to tell you something.
So would you get married then?
Huh?
Would you get married then?
Marriage is a scam. If I was to
Okay.
get married, I wouldn't
Well,
do it with the
fair
state.
enough. I respect guys like you then, who could
I would do
say
it if I was to get married. I
Okay.
wouldn't do it with the state.
Sorry?
I'd do it religiously only.
Okay.
I wouldn't do it with the state involved. Yeah, I don't.
Okay, I think that's probably about. I don't know if they talk to her anymore about her bit. I think that's probably.
Guys shouldn't be idiots. Like, obviously, don't fucking. You should get tested and everything.
I don't want to.
I got one. I'm gonna give. If there's one thing you ladies
really.
are gonna take from this podcast from me, because I've probably triggered you.
Okay, all right. Look, I think we'll leave it at that for the time being. For that, it then all kicked off later. A couple of the girls got one of the girls basically got asked to leave, and then a couple of the other girls were triggered, and it all went into a bit of a shit show. Look, I mean, to be fair, it was like 5 a.m. I think everyone was very tired. Tempers were frayed, and all the rest of it. It is what it is. But I think that bit was genuinely really, really interesting, because I think it sort of gets to the heart of this sort of like this dual. Well, people talk about the dual mating strategy of women. Basically they want the Chad, they want the bad boy for the fun, and then they want the secure kind of stable guy. Now, ideally, what they really want is both of them in one, but it's very, very hard to get that, right? Okay. So, yeah, I just think her story with that guy is really interesting, because once again, there's people watching this, and I have people in my community or people who come onto the streams and they're like, yeah, I'm just working my money at the moment, and then I'll worry about the dating stuff later. And it's like, well, okay, fine, but if you are, as Paul put it, a rich dork, then you are, then this could happen to you. Okay, so just again, you've got to understand this stuff, right? You've got to understand it's emotional, not logical. You've got to understand that even if you tick all of the boxes that get talked about as being high value, in the space, that doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to choose you or she's going to stay with you. Okay. You need to have something else. And, frame, they were calling it frame. They were talking about boundaries. You might also talk about rears. It's like how you interact with her. Okay. It comes down, I think, to masculine, feminine polarity, right? How you are with her, that is going to make a big fucking difference. Even if you're wealthy. Okay. Maybe especially so. In a way, she might judge you more harshly because she might expect you to have more of those qualities, and if you don't, then it's almost more of a letdown. Let's have a look at and get the likes up. By the way, we've got 21 people in here, so we need 21 likes at least, please, and do hit subscribe. It's over 9K. She needs a bad guy to drag her through the dirt. Okay. Max pause. I don't know. It's never been better for women. So many thirsty men. Even older women and single mums can still get a good deal on options these days. Okay. Yeah, marriage causes divorce. He wasn't Chad. Well, yeah, okay, fine. But I mean, let's not totally black pill ourselves because he could have been Chad. But then he still got dumped because she wanted a dude with more resources. As I say, the issue that we have here is that hypergamy is a many splendid thing. All right, there's different strands to it. Okay, they want Chadness, they want a guy who's rich, they want a guy who's ripped, they want a guy who's sensitive. They want there's so many different things, and it's very hard with the best will in the world as a guy to be satisfying all of those things completely. There's always going to be someone who's ahead of you. Things are tough out there, lads. So the O1T, the guy was probably perfect, but with the cocktail of illusions of sexual market value, not wanting to close the lid on attention and boredom caused the guy for her to hit the door. Not okay. In the man's defense, maybe he didn't sit down and talk to her about the business proposition because she's not his wife. Yeah, fair enough. But, in her defense, I would say, well, yeah, but they were planning to get married. And if he was just going to do this thing and it was going to, probably he should have sat down and had the conversation. If he didn't, but we don't know enough of the facts surrounding this. So who knows? Sakina's decision, marriage causes divorce. Sakina's decision is logical. Nice guy has inferior genetics. Chad has better genetics, dual mating strategy. Okay, yeah. So if essentially what you're saying is she sniffed out his nice guyness, and even though he had money and he was loaded, on some subconscious level, she felt that genetically he wouldn't be the best, person for her to procreate with. Nature is a harsh mistress, lads. It's over 9K. Yeah, money is just a foot in the door, but money ain't going to get her panties wet. The O1T, your laugh cracks me up, Troy. Eric Linden, she needs to let the guy take the lead. Well, arguably, the guy, she shouldn't be letting the guy take the lead. The guy should be taking the lead, right? Or at least, I mean, not in a hugely controlling way or anything like that, but the dynamic it seems that she's looking for is that the guy just naturally takes the lead, okay? So it's not about whether she let him or not. I mean, she might be, I don't know. I mean, actually, she seems like quite a sweet-natured girl as it is, but it's not so much about her letting him. It's more about, did he just naturally do that? And if he didn't, then that's what's causing the problem. Max, what does it mean when a woman occasionally looks at you on a date and looks annoyed and keeps shaking her head like, what an idiot, but acts normal and talks normal? It probably means you're a fucking buffoon, man. You need to sort your game out. I don't know. Bottom line, she liked him for his money and then found out that his friends had an influence over him with his money and she didn't like her resources going to the friends. Possibly. If a woman wants to override the man's decision, because yeah, she mentioned the friends, didn't she? Yeah. She's a girl boss. If he stays with her, he is a simp. Well, I think it sounds like he didn't handle it particularly well. Okay, and possibly because she's talking about his people pleasing and stuff. Maybe he kind of didn't tell her, and then because he didn't want the confrontation, and then it comes out, and she's annoyed because of that reason. Maybe it was that. Of course, the other guys who wanted to get in with her agreed with her. Okay. Yeah. I guess she liked him, but then she realized other men walked all over him and she didn't feel safe. That's why men should handle men who try to drag you down. Don't put up with it. Well, possibly, but I don't know anything about this deal. Maybe it was a really good deal. I don't know. I mean, we're assuming, you know, maybe it was an amazing opportunity. Like we just don't know enough, do we, about the circumstances? She dumped him because she wants to level up. Well, okay, but it sounds like he was, you know, I don't know, pretty good shape. She's weak. That's why she wants to survive psychology. Yo, Troy, any tips on nightlife in Krakow? Well, you know, just go to the Old Town, man. I mean, just go around the Old Town. Loads of people around there. The shopping malls are pretty good as well, actually. So, yeah, I mean, Krakow's a great place. You'll have a really good time. There's some clubs and things there as well. Oh, you asking about nightlife? Yeah, there's some clubs and things around the Old Town you can go and check out. I forget the names, but I mean, there's a lot of places. So it's usually a good place to go and party and to, you know, have a good time. Cool. Okay. Well, look, I think we'll leave that one there for now. So the plan is that what we're going to do is actually get Sakina on tomorrow, and we're going to have a conversation with her. And we could talk about this, but we could also talk more generally. I mean, she's a presenter. She does social media. She's kind of, you know, in the space anyway. So we could talk about this, but we could also get into, you know, some wider issues around, like, what are women looking for? Why do these things come up? What gives, you know, what should men be doing to, you know, to meet the kind of women they like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We'll be looking at a 2 p.m. start UK time tomorrow for that. Obviously, we'll try it on social media first. And yeah, if there's no other questions, any other questions, put them in the chat now, or forever hold your peace. And that aside, make sure you give me a like on the way out. Do hit subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications bell so you know when new videos are coming up. And I will see you tomorrow. I don't think there's any more questions, so we will leave it there. All right, guys. Have a good one. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.